A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
The greatest story ever told. Presented by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. Today we present The Woman and the Treasure, a drama inspired by an event set forth in the 19th chapter of the Gospel according to St. Matthew, an event from the greatest life ever lived. The great marble palace of Pontius Pilate, Roman procurator for all Judea, is lit by many torches this night, and the music of a great party fills the huge banquet hall. It is a night of feasting and laughter, and many men of importance in Jerusalem are in attendance. There are officials from Rome, dignitaries from Alexandria, Greece, Phoenicia, and also many of the important men of commerce of the province itself. Now, one of the important men from Jerusalem turns to his wife to say,
"Oh, my dear, am I mistaken, or does Pilate have beckoned to you?"
Pilate, then? You mean Claudia herself wants to attack my account? Why shouldn't she?
Why shouldn't she? Poor this woman is better down. These jewels sparkle more brightly.
You think she's jealous, then?
I told you it was dangerous to wear all those jewels. The Romans could see them, and only create envy. And pity those whom the Romans envy.
I'm sure now. She is beckoning to me.
Not with fancy things you don't notice. That will only make her angry. You better go and see what you want.
Yes, Milton. Beckoning to me, Excellency? My dear, I leave all such titles to my husband. You may call me by my name. Thank you, Claudia. You are Lois, wife of the great merchant nation. Are you not? I am. What do you wish of me? Was it the diamonds that attracted your eye? Is there a woman who wouldn't notice such unusual gems? But it was more than that. Listen to me closely. As we talk, pretend that this is a casual conversation. I don't understand. You have only to listen and smile and pretend that we are carrying on the kind of idle, useless chatter men always expect of women. Go on, smile. And nod for friends. That's better. And you wish to talk to me about something at the same time? Yes. After all, who is one of your people? Who? The man who has come down from Galilee. They tell strange tales about him. And curious, interesting. Does he do miracles? Does he teach about what he calls eternal life? True. I've never even heard of him. They call him the Master. And Pilate has already heard the talk from Galilee that many people follow him. I've heard nothing. I'm sorry I cannot tell you. You can trust me. I'm not hostile to your people. Believe me. Then believe me, too, for I know nothing. If I did, I would tell you. I was sure you'd know. Sure that I would find out tonight. You see, it's important that I find out tonight. Why tonight? You'll find out very soon. You'll find out? How? See that serving woman who makes her way toward us, bearing the tray with food on it? Yes. Listen, then she comes near. Mistress, and to offer us the food, ma'am. Oh. Yes, mistress. Now tell me, what have you heard? The Master and some of his disciples are at a house in the poor quarter of Jerusalem. The door is open, and many stand and listen outside. There is a great crowd. Now, you think it will be safe today? My son waits at the back gate of the palace, ready to lead you there. And I have arranged for several simple robes to cover your fine clothes. You will be well disguised. No one will know. Good. but I must satisfy my curiosity about this man. Please, would you go with me? Of course, Claudia, if you wish. Then we must slip out of this hall without being too conspicuous. I shall go see. You will find. Yes, Claudia.
Should hide its way. It would not do for one wearing such clothes as mine to wander through the city at this hour without the protection of such a simple disguise. Nor would it do to be overheard.
Oh, Confucius, what are you doing here?
Excellency, that sounds just a question both of us could be called upon to answer.
I asked you what you were doing here. Remember, this is my palace.
Of course. Well, my efforts to slip away from the party do cast suspicion on my actions, but I am neither ashamed nor apologetic. I am on my way to seek out a prophet in Galilee. I've heard strange things about him. I want to see and hear for myself.
You, too?
Don't tell me that you, a Roman, also go seeking.
I give you my word, Justin, for such further going.
In that case, shall the three of us go together? I'll have word as to the place you'll find him. Come. I'll lead the way.
I had heard there were miracles, healings. We've seen none so far.
Even if there were no healing, there is miracle enough in this house.
What do you mean?
What Lois tries to tell you is that such a prophet who teaches to the poor is miracle enough in this land. You may be disappointed, Claudia, but I am impressed. Greatly impressed. The things he teaches, a kingdom of heaven, everlasting life, these are things a man seeks after. And I shall find out how one achieves them.
You would ask him?
Yes. Master, I must ask you one thing. What good things shall I do that I may have the eternal life of which he spoke?
If thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments.
The commandments? Which commandments, Master?
Thou shalt do no murder. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Honor thy father and thy mother, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
These commandments? Why, all these things I have lived by since my youth. Yet it seems I lack something. What is it I still lack, Master?
If thou wilt be perfect, go and sell that thou hast, and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven. And come and follow me.
Give away all that I have, Master? You don't realize how much I have. No, I couldn't do that. No, I couldn't do that.
So stupid. It's gone. But because his possessions are so great, he cannot make the sacrifice the master asked. I wonder, Claudia, could we? I wonder, too. Only one thing I'm sure. I shall never forget this night. Or him. I came to the palace this morning as soon as I received your message. Is there some trouble? I don't know, Lane. I didn't sleep last night. No, I. First, I kept hearing his words. Then, it was as though I could see him standing before me and beckoning to me. I know. I was restless, too. I rose from my couch and stood on the balcony, staring out into the darkness of dawn time. I thought of Josephus and the way he went away from the master's presence. Sorrowful, yet unable to part with his possessions. I said of the words the master spoke to me. Remember.
Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal.
I thought of those words. And this morning I took out of the drawer just the gems I wore last night. I looked at them, held them up in the sunlight. I saw them sparkle and glow like flames. And I thought, these treasures are earthly treasures. And the master said to give them up. But I love them. I can sit and stare at them by the hour and find new lights to admire in them each time. Yes, I know how one can admire you. When we are no different from just people, Father. I wonder if we could be. Claudia, suppose we were to sell what we have and give to the poor. That gem you upon your throat, what could it do for us? This gem? No, not this one, sir. This one was brought from across the continent all the way from Cafe. There it had belonged to an emperor. He gave it to his wife at the time of their marriage. Why, this had been a royal gem for 1,000 years before my husband bought it from me. I couldn't part with this one. Then the gem you wear on your finger? That's it. You hesitate again? This is one of my favorites. I know. I was asking because I wanted to select one of my own gems that I might sell. And each somehow turned out to be my favorite, too, for one reason or another. I lack the courage to give up any one of them. So I thought, if you could sell them, I might gain courage from you and be able to match your sacrifice. When we had both as weak as just people. So, I would like to tell you. Here, this ring, I shall give it up. Then I shall give up this ring. What shall we do with the money? My maidservant will know where charity is needed among the poor of Jerusalem. The money we receive from these will be used to help them. Is it agreed? Yes. Good. Wait, one moment. Let me have one last look at you. Look. It's perfect. Give it to me before you change your mind. Yes. Do you realize, Claudia, that we give up only a small part of what we have? Oh, no. The master expected more than that. He asked more of their people. Yes. And shall we make a bargain? This will be only the first of what we shall give up. From now on, each of us will match the sacrifice of the other. I promise you. And now I'll find out how much these 2 gems will bring. And the money will be given to the people. Only, Claudia, let me have one more look at the gem before it is sold.
What is it? Is there something wrong?
No, dear.
At the meal this evening, you ate very little. She's not even to know that there was food before you.
I was not very hungry.
That is obvious. Something else is obvious, too. Ever since the night of Pilate's banquet, you've not been the same. Was it something Claudia said to you? Did she say something that caused you to worry? Something you keep from me because you think I might worry, too?
Please, Nathan, please don't drive me with questions.
I see, then there is something to worry about.
No.
No, if you can tell me. You've not become involved in any court intrigue, have you?
Yes, yes.
You've not found it necessary to give up any of your jewels to keep gossiping tongues from wagging, have you?
Give up jewels? What do you know about that?
I know there's one missing. The one that used to be so proudly worn on this finger.
When you noticed.
The first day I noticed it was missing, I thought you'd forgotten the word. But knowing how much you loved gems, I knew there was something wrong, and the ring was missing from your hand on the second and third day.
Well, what happened to you?
You won't be angry with me.
Have I ever been angry with you without reason?
Nathan, I'm afraid you will be angry this time.
I'm waiting to hear Lois.
The night of the banquet, Claudia and I went to hear the master. You must have heard of him, the man from Galilee.
I've heard. Well?
We were so impressed by him and what he said about the real treasures of this life that Claudia and I made a pact. We would each sacrifice earthly treasure in equal proportions to do good with the money.
I see.
The ring was the first.
Now I understand.
You're not angry.
Shall a man be angry if he discovers his wife has kind and charitable instincts? Far from being angry on side of you, my dear. Very sorry.
And perhaps now you will be angry.
Is something else?
I have discovered something about myself, Nathan. I am not kind. I am not charitable. No matter what good may be done with the money, I would rather have the gem back.
Oh?
Yes. I would rather be able to admire it and hold it and wear it than to measure it as cold, and I don't want it to again. I'm sorry.
I see. Well, my dear, if it means so much to you, perhaps something can be done about it. The gem may not yet be sold. If it is, I may be able to buy it back. Please don't cry.
I'm not proud of you anymore. You must despise me now.
I love you, my dear. And better than that, I understand you. I admit now I was surprised when you told me that you'd given up one of the gems. I didn't think that was like you. I used to have it back. Now, will you stop crying?
There's more, Nathan.
What do you mean?
Claudia and I, we had agreed that we would continue to sell our gems. Each of us giving up one gem at a time.
I see. Well, there, I cannot help you. You must put an end to this arrangement as you began it, by yourself. As for the ring, I'll try to find out who has it now. That's all I can do. Well, Daniel, have you dealt in such a gem as I described? Have you seen it? Heard of it?
What makes you think that I would have seen such a ring as you described?
For one thing, I know that in the past, Claudia has bought several gems from you. And she wanted to show some to Kentucky, I'm sure.
Well, take on listen. Don't involve private passion. When you deal with such highly influenced people, in person and a closed mouth and the best effort. Who would know why someone like her Excellency would want to dispose of gems suddenly?
I know.
You do?
Yes, but I have no interest in her gems, only in the ring that belonged to my wife. I must know who's it given to you.
There are no secrets or royalty is concerned. Yes, the gems were brought to me, both of them.
And the ring, where is it? What price you put on it?
The ring? That was sold the whole day it was given to me. The other gem was sold the next day. The money has been given to the woman Claudia Cynthia.
The ring is sold. Well, I must go and find the buyer and get it back.
That would take you a long journey, Nathan.
It's not sold to someone residing here in Jerusalem?
It was sold to a Roman on the same day who was left here. He's already on a ship bound for Rome.
I see. Well, thank you, Daniel.
Perhaps there are some other gems which might take the place of that one. I have many here.
No, I'm afraid it'd have to be that ring or nothing. Well, I shall tell my wife. Good day, Daniel. So it was sold to a man who's already started back to rent. The ring is gone, my dear.
I see.
I'm sorry, Lord. But sometimes it's not always possible to undo a hasty and ill-considered action.
You don't really believe it was hasty and ill-considered, do you?
What else could it be if you do it one day and regret it so keenly the next?
I don't mean that.
Please, Ralph, I don't understand you.
You didn't think my action hasty and ill-considered. You were proud of me for that moment when you thought I was unselfish and honestly interested in the welfare of others. Weren't you?
Yes, I was proud of you.
And now you must be very disappointed to find out that I'm selfish and unable to think of anything or anyone but myself. You may tell me the truth, Percy.
You want me to hate you, don't you?
I want to know the truth, Percy.
All right. You are selfish and spoiled. Nevertheless, the precious things that make you the new brother sometimes. Now you've heard it.
I wanted to hear it. And yet it's very remarkable that what you said hasn't changed me at all. Not any more than what he said.
Perhaps his words were meant to keep you stronger than you are. But we must deal in realities, Lois. You have something you must do.
Claudia?
Yes. I depend no little on Pilot's favors in my business. You're not too well for him to know that you've disappointed Claudia. So you must go to her and ask to be released from your promise. Do it tactfully and without angering her. You understand?
What if she refuses?
We'll talk about that later. If she does refuse.
Lois, I've been waiting to hear from you. I thought you'd have come to call on me before this. I had wanted to, Claudia, but I found myself unable to do so. You were ill? No. I had a great deal of thinking to do. Yes, you've been troubled. Claudia, I've been trying to think of ways to tell you. I thought of many ways, but all of them would have been dishonest. Lois, what are you trying to say? You must give me your word that I'll not be offended. After all, it was you who established an equality between us. Now it is very important that I be able to trust you as an equal.
Have I ever said anything that would indicate I do not feel that way?
No, but then you don't know what I'm about to say.
I promise I will not be offended.
Then I was 16. Claudia, you must understand that when I made my promise, I meant to carry it out. I didn't give my word lightly. So did I do it because I wanted to impress you or gain your friendship?
You mean the promise that each of us would match the sacrifice of the other? Yes. But you were the one who made that suggestion.
Which must make my weakness now seem all of it. The truth is, I cannot do it. I cannot abide by my promise. I have offended you.
Perhaps at one time I would have been offended. But something has been happening to me of late. Somehow I'm different. I seem to understand people better than I do. I can sympathize with their feelings and their frailties more than I ever could before.
You even sound different. Claudia, what has happened to you?
I think it was hearing his words.
You put me to shame. I wish I could withstand you. But I'm not. Will you release me from my promise?
If you insist.
And there will be no resentment. It will not cause His Excellency any trouble or embarrassment.
I kept the promise a secret. No one will know that you were released from it. The whole thing shall be forgotten.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you. Be quiet, Mary. What is it? I noticed my maidservant standing in the doorway. I wouldn't want her to hear it for your sake. Mara, come here.
Yes, mister.
Mara, have you heard anything this woman said?
Oh, no, Excellency. You know I never eavesdrop.
That you were standing in the doorway?
Only because there's someone here to see you. I wanted to tell you. You see, the woman cannot wait too long. I had trouble getting her past the guards at the gate as it was.
You had trouble? Why?
The poor are never received here, mistress. You must know that.
So this is a poor woman. And what does she want?
Only to talk to you. I couldn't refuse her, mistress. Would you take the time to see her? Claudia, shall I leave?
No, Lois. It can be no secret business. Mara, you may have the woman brought in.
Yes, mistress.
This is most unusual. Poor woman, coming to call on me. It's me.
Mistress, this is the woman.
There's no reason to throw yourself at my feet, woman. Stand and say what it is that brought you here.
Thank you. Though it's for myself alone, perhaps I never would have the courage to approach this place. But they kept urging me. They kept telling me someone must go to her. Someone must tell her. They seem to think that I should do it best. They? Who? All of them. The widow whose husband died, leaving her without even enough to feed her children for the next week. And the blind old man who is now too old and weak to beg. And there are so many others. So many. I myself, who have a husband, lamed and unable to support my children, so that I must see everything and have not known a single good day since all this evil came upon me. You don't know what your kindness has meant here. The help, the kindness, the joy you don't know. Please, Anne, there is no need to cry. Please don't talk of that goodness without shedding tears of thanks. Now that I have told you, I shall not trouble you any longer. Wait. Let me look at you. At me? Lift your face. Let me see it. You would look at me. Oh, the tears that stand on your cheeks. Crying and embarrassed. But then with you? No, woman. It has suddenly opened your eyes. And more important, it has opened your heart. I know something now I never knew before. I feel different. Claudia, will you forget everything that I've said to you this day? I will stand by my promise always. I'm happy to hear you say it. It was whole tears that did it. As I looked upon this woman's face, as I saw the light fall on those tears of thanks and make me speak. I knew suddenly that they meant more than the sparkle of the gems I'd held so dearly. There is no warmth in the treasures of this earth. No satisfaction. Nothing which can compare with the happiness of this good woman. Claudia, I am ready to live by the Master's words and to give up earthly pleasure for his pleasure.
This program was brought to you by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. Next week on the same network at this time, we will present And It Giveth Life, a drama inspired by the 5th chapter of the Gospel according to St. Matthew. Another episode in the greatest story ever told from the greatest life ever lived.
Greymoor Friars Monastery is located on Atonement Mountain, near Garrison, New York. Adjacent to this famous monastery, one sees St. Christopher's Inn. Homeless men from all walks of life come to this famous inn. These men are fed and sheltered by the Greymoor Friars, and no distinction is ever made of race, creed, or color. You are invited to listen to another chapter of the dramatized story, The Life of Christ, brought to you transcribed each week by the Greymoor Friars, who offer this series with a prayerful hope that this vivid portrayal of the life of Christ will help to awaken in you a deeper personal love of God and a firm determination to strive to prove that love in your daily life. Now, Chapter 42, The Way of the Cross.
I am poured out like water, and all my bones are scattered. My heart has become like wax, melting in the midst of my bowels. My strength is dried up like a potsherd. My tongue hath cleaved to my jaws. Thou hast brought me down into the dust of death. They have dug my hands and feet. They have numbered all my bones. They have looked and stared upon me. They parted my garments amongst them, and upon my vesture they cast lots.
And John, a disciple of Jesus, bore witness concerning these things, and has written these things. When the chief priest came to Pilate and asked him to change the inscription on the tablet, he refused, saying, "What I have written, I have written." And it was Friday, as the procession made its way toward Golgotha, and in a few hours the Pasch would begin. A servant of the court walked ahead, bearing the tablet on which was written the crime for which Jesus died. Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. And this was the truth, but Pilate did not know it, for he ordered it written in mockery. And of the 13 who knew this to be the truth, 1 had hanged himself, 11 had scattered and were silent, and the 13th was now to be crucified, because it was the truth.
Make way! Make way there! Stand back, clear the street for the prisoners. Oh, are you down again? Here, you, come back. Help this man carry the beam to Golgotha.
No, you can't do this.
Why not?
He must do no work. He must not defile himself, for the Passover is about to begin.
Do you want the prisoner to die in the streets? It's evident he will never reach Golgotha without aid. Now get thee to it.
But it is unlawful
Dost
for
thou
him
want
to...
me to be in trouble with Pilate for not executing his orders? I requisition this man to help with the cross.
All bear witness to this. Simon of Cyrene is commanded to this task. See to it, Simon.
Come now. To Golgotha.
Now there was following him a great crowd of the people, and of women who were bewailing and lamenting him.
Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, days are coming in which men will say, Blessed are the barren and the wombs that never bore and the breasts that never nursed. Then they will begin to say to the mountains, Fall upon us, and to the hills, cover us. For if in the case of green wood they do these things, what is to happen in case of the dry?
And when they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there. And the robbers, one on his right hand, and the other one on his left. And John bore witness to these things.
Drink of this wine. Take it. It's mixed with myrrh. It'll deaden the pain. No? Very well. Prepare the prisoners for execution.
Captain, I know nothing of crucifixion. You'll have to show me.
What? For this they give me new recruits. Strip the prisoners of their garments. Put the clothing in one pile. We'll divide it later. When you're finished with that, lay the prisoners on the beams, their backs to it, the arms outstretched full length. All you people stand back. Give the men room to work.
Hand me the nails.
Wait, don't drive the nail there.
Where then?
Here, I'll show you. Take your fingers. Feel the wrist. Now, feel that spot between the bones?
Aye.
Place the point of the spike there and drive it into the wood. Careful not to let it crack the bone on either side. Now, in this way, the nails will not tear through the flesh and let the man fall.
Oh, I care not for this.
Be silent. Now do to the other hand in like manner. Well, hurry. The others have nailed the two robbers.
It is finished.
Tie the rope hanging from the pulley around his chest. Then hoist the beam to the post. Ready? Hoist. A bit higher. That's good. Now nail the feet to the upright.
Father.
He speaks.
Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing.
Did you hear? Drive the spike.
Strange words from a dying man.
Aye. Strange words.
What has this man done?
You see the tablet?
Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. I don't understand this. It's plain enough for the other two. They are the thieves.
Pilate has written it. Well, have the men on the ladder nail it above the man's head.
Here. What do we do now?
Nothing. We wait for them to die.
Does it take long?
Who can say? Not all men die alike. While waiting, we'll divide the clothing.
Bring the garments.
Thou who destroyest the temple and in 3 days buildest it up again. Save thyself.
If thou art the Son of God, come down from the cross.
He saves others. Himself he cannot save. If he is King of Israel, let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe him.
If thou art King of the Jews, save thyself.
He trusted in God. Let him deliver him now if he wants him. For he said, I am the Son of God.
Captain, this tunic of the one called Jesus is without seam, woven of one piece from the top.
Let us not tear it.
Oh, how shall we divide it?
Let us cast lots for it to see whose it shall be.
Yes, I have some dice.
Cast.
Now these things were done, that the Scripture might be fulfilled. And he was reckoned among the wicked, and hath borne the sins of many, and hath prayed for the transgressors. And they divided my garments among them, and for my vesture they cast lots.
Who speaks?
The thief to the left.
Give me the dice.
If thou art the Christ, save thyself and us.
Dost thou not even fear God, seeing that thou art under the same sentence? And we indeed justly.
And he is not.
For we are receiving what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong. Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom.
Amen. I say to you, this day thou shalt be with me in paradise.
You won, soldier. The tunic is yours.
And these things John bore witness to, for he stood by the cross of Jesus with his mother and his mother's sister, Mary of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene. And Jesus looked down upon them, and directing his eyes to his mother, he spoke.
Woman, behold thy son.
And then turning to John, he said,
Behold thy mother.
And from that hour, John took her into his home and looked upon her as his mother. And now it was near the 9th hour, and the soldiers had finished the casting of lots and were talking among themselves. And they were looking to the sky. They seemed to be in fear.
It's grown much darker.
It was a sullen sky from the moment we arrived.
Still, it's but 3 in the afternoon. There should be more light.
Eli.
What's that?
Eli, Eli. Lema sabachthani.
What does he say?
He speaks in Aramaic, calling on God.
This man is calling Elias.
I thirst.
Give him to drink. Soak the sponge in vinegar water and lift it up to him.
Wait! Let us see whether Elias is coming to save
Be
him.
silent. Soldier, give the man to drink.
Here. Bite into the sponge.
It is consummated.
Soldier,
What was it the man said in Aramaic? Translated, it is, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?
Father, into thy hand I commend my spirit.
The man is dead.
And John bore witness that the earth quaked, and the rocks were rent, and the tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep arose. And behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. Now when the centurion and those who were with him keeping guard over Jesus saw the earthquake and the things that were happening, they were very much afraid.
The earth shakes, Captain. Truly, this was a just man. Truly, this man was the Son of God.
Son of God.
This man was the Son of God. This man was the Son of God.
And all the crowd that collected for the sight, when they beheld what things had happened, began to return, beating their breasts. And they gnawed at their mouths, and they wept. But many did not yet believe, for they denied the man was the Christ, because he did not come down from the cross and save himself. And they spoke among themselves that he was not the Christ, because only the accursed of God does God permit to hang on a tree. And then the chief priests and Pharisees remembered the precept, and they hurried off to Pilate.
Will there be no end to this matter? What is it now?
We have a law, Pilate.
Another law?
When a man dies on the gibbet, his body shall not remain upon the tree, but shall be buried the same day, for he is accursed of God that hangeth on a tree.
Indeed.
It is our law that they be buried before sundown. The feast of the Passover is almost upon us. Cannot their death be hastened by breaking their legs?
Very well, very well.
Let me remind you, the time is short.
I know. It will be done at once.
Captain, word has just come from Pilate.
Yes?
We are to break the legs of the executed and permit them to be taken down for burial.
That is well. It will save us a long watch. See to it.
We've finished the two thieves. What of this man? He's already dead. But test with your spear. Look. He bleeds water.
Nay. It's blood.
It's both blood and water.
And John bore witness to these things. For these things came to pass, that the Scripture might be fulfilled. Not a bone of him shall you break. They shall look upon him whom they have pierced. Now after these things, Joseph of Arimathea, because he was a disciple of Jesus, although for fear of the Jews a secret one, besought Pilate that he might take away the body of Jesus. And Nicodemus, who at first had come to Jesus by night, bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes in weight about 100 pounds. They therefore took the body of Jesus and wrapped it in linen cloths with the spices, after the Jewish manner of preparing for burial. Now in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb in which no one had yet been laid. There, accordingly, because of the preparation day of the Jews, for the tomb was close at hand, they laid Jesus. And the women who had come with Jesus from Galilee followed after, and beheld the tomb and how the body was laid. And they went back and prepared spices and ointments. And on the Sabbath they rested, in accordance with the commandment. And though it was the Sabbath, the chief priests and Pharisees once more besieged Pilate.
What, again?
Only a matter of great urgency would bring us, Procurator.
Is not this your holy day? And is it not the law that thou canst not walk about at this time?
We have the ruling of the scribes. Dire urgency permits it.
What is this dire urgency?
Sir, we have remembered how that deceiver said, while he was yet alive, "After 3 days I will rise again."
And you're afraid he will?
No, we have no fear of that. The man was but boasting, but we have fear that his disciples might steal the body away.
I begin to understand this dire emergency.
Give orders, therefore, that the sepulchre be guarded until the 3rd day, or else his disciples may come and steal him away and say to the people, "He has risen from the dead." And then the last imposture will be worse than the first.
You have a guard?
Yes, of course, but...
Go guard it, as well as you know how.
Out! One man will stand watch at the entrance of the tomb, another at the entrance to the garden. Remain posted until relieved. No one at all is to be permitted to enter the tomb. Is that clear?
Yes, Captain.
Very well. Post.
Perhaps, Captain, an added precaution should be taken?
Yes?
Lest these disciples come in the night and bribe the guards, let us seal the tomb. Then, if that seal be broken, we shall know someone has rolled the stone aside.
Do as you wish. My orders are to watch until the 3rd day.
That is when he said he would rise from the dead.
He promised that?
It was a boast, not a promise.
And yet...
You seem doubtful, Captain.
I led him through Jerusalem. I saw him die. I have seen many die. I tell you, he was not a boastful man.
So they went and made the sepulchre secure, sealing the stone and setting the guard.
I am poured out like water, and all my bones are scattered. My heart has become like wax, melting in the midst of my bowels. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue hath cleaved to my jaws, and thou hast brought me down into the dust of death, They have dug my hands and feet. They have numbered all my bones. They have looked and stared upon me. They parted my garments amongst them, and upon my vesture they cast lots.
The Graymore Friars Monastery is located on Atonement Mountain, near Garrison, New York. Adjacent to this famous monastery, one sees St. Christopher's Inn. Homeless men from all walks of life come to this famous inn. These men are fed and sheltered by the Graymore Friars, and no distinction is ever made of race, creed, or color. You are invited to listen to another chapter of the dramatized story, The Life of Christ, brought to you transcribed each week by the Graymore Friars, who offer this series with a prayerful hope that this vivid portrayal of the life of Christ will help awaken in you a deeper personal love of God and a firm determination to strive to prove that love in your daily life. Now, Chapter 43. He is risen.
I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, even if he die, shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Dost thou believe this?
Yes, Lord. I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, who hast come into the world.
Now Jesus had been laid in the tomb on Friday, shortly before the feast of the Passover began. And the chief priests and the rulers came to Pilate and persuaded him that the tomb be guarded, lest his disciples steal the body and say that he was risen from the dead. And the sepulchre was sealed. And people went to their homes to celebrate the Passover and to observe the Sabbath. And the soldiers remained on watch until an early hour on Sunday, at which time there was a disturbance in the bowels of the earth.
Captain, help! I can't stand.
What do you want? What is it? Lie down! Hug the earth!
No. Let's run from here.
Lie down!
Look. The tomb.
Stones rolled away. Who is that sitting there? Who goes?
It is a ghost. Run! Run for your lives!
Come back! Come back! Please! Please!
Captain, this is a strange tale you bring us.
It is the truth.
Perhaps you and your men have been drinking, and you make this up to protect yourself.
No soldier could make up such an excuse.
You've not reported this to Pilate?
Knowing the Sanhedrin's great interest in the tomb, we have come direct to you.
The tomb is empty.
Yes.
How could you tell in the dark?
The man sitting on the stone lighted up the tomb. I could see within. It was empty.
You realize this is a very serious matter?
That's why we reported to you first. It was you that asked Pilate for the watch.
Desertion from a watch carries a heavy penalty, does it not?
The penalty is severe, yes. However, there seemed to be no point in guarding an empty tomb.
Of course, it was the disciples who took the body.
My men and I think differently. We will swear to it.
How do you account for it?
If questioned by Pilate, you will have to report just what I've told you. Perhaps the man spoke the truth. I told you at the time he seemed not a boastful man. If, as you accuse him, he be the Son of God, he would have no trouble pushing aside the stone from within.
We do not accuse him of being, but of claiming to be the Son of God. But that does not concern you.
If there's nothing further, I'll now report to Pilate.
No, don't go yet. Sit down, Captain. I'm wondering if we could not arrive at some understanding. Of course, you know Pilate will not believe this preposterous story.
But there are certain quarters where it will be believed.
It would be most unfortunate if your story was noised about. Yes, there are many foolish people who would believe it, and it would cause no end of speculation and rumor.
I can well understand.
Would it not be best to say, his disciples came by night and stole him while we were sleeping?
Sleeping on watch like desertion is a serious matter.
Of course. But suppose you were rewarded for your slumber.
Well, it could salve the sting of Pilate's displeasure.
If the procurator hears of this, we will persuade him to keep you out of trouble.
I'll have to talk this over with my men.
You can persuade them?
Perhaps.
How many are there in the watch?
4.
Perhaps a gift would be useful.
If it be in proportion to the risk.
I think you will find the gifts contained in these bags quite in proportion.
Yes, quite.
Then it's a bargain. Your men will say the body was stolen while the watch slept, and by his disciples.
Agreed.
Now the women, who had prepared spices and ointment on the day of the burial, came early on the first day of the week. And they were Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James, Salome, and Joanna. And as they hurried toward the tomb, Mary Magdalene said,
"Who will roll the stone back from the entrance of the tomb for us? Look. Look. The stone has been rolled away." Mary, Joanna, the tomb is empty. I will run and tell Peter and the others. Who's that?
Do not be terrified. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth who was crucified. Why do you seek the living one among the dead? He is not here, but has risen. Remember how he spoke to you while he was yet in Galilee, saying that the Son of Man must be betrayed into the hands of sinful men and be crucified, and on the third day rise.
And the women fled the tomb in terror, and followed after Mary Magdalene, who ran to Simon Peter.
Peter! Peter!
Mary, what is it?
You must come at once. The tomb.
The tomb? What has happened?
Gone. Gone. Jesus is gone.
What?
I just came from there. The stone had been rolled away, and the tomb is empty. They have taken the Lord from the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him.
No, no. John! John, come! Hurry! To the tomb!
The other women and I came early with spices and ointment. The guards were gone, and the stone was as you see it. I looked in. He was gone, and I ran to you after telling the women.
Where are they now?
I don't know. I left them here.
Let's go in. Not a trace of him. But wait. Come here. Look. The linen in which he was wrapped. The napkin that covered his face.
The napkin is neatly folded.
There's no doubt the body has not been stolen. Why would they unwind the linen and fold the napkin if they wanted to steal the body?
But where is he?
I don't know. I don't know. Come, John, we must go to the others and tell them what we have seen.
Woman, why art thou weeping?
Because they have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him.
Woman, why art thou weeping? Whom dost thou seek?
Art thou the gardener? Oh, sir, if thou hast removed him, tell me where thou hast laid him, and I will take him away.
Mary.
Rabboni. Master.
Do not touch me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father. But go to my brethren and say to them, I ascend to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God.
Yea, Lord. He is risen.
What? Mary, what are you saying?
I have seen the Lord, and these he said to me, I have not yet ascended to my Father. Go to my brethren and say to them, I ascend to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God.
Incredible. She's overwrought.
This tale is that of the women who said they saw angels sitting at the tomb. Seems to be nonsense.
Peter, how can you say that? I threw myself at his feet. I touched him, and he said, do not touch me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father.
Mary, this has upset you and the other women. You had best go home and say no more about this. It will get you into trouble with the rulers.
Peter, all of you. How can I make you believe? He has risen.
But this tale seemed to them to be nonsense, and they did not believe the woman. And now that same day after the Passover, many people were leaving the city for their homes. And among these were two of Jesus' followers, one of whom was named Cleophas, who were walking toward the village of Emmaus, which is about 7 miles from Jerusalem. And as they walked, they talked sadly about the things that had happened.
What could have happened to the body of Jesus? We know Joseph had Pilate's permission to place it in the tomb and did so. Surely the chief priests would not have stolen it themselves after sealing the tomb and placing guards. This they did, it's rumored, because they feared the disciples would steal the body and tell all the people that Jesus had risen from the dead. I did not go to the execution place. Who is this who follows us?
Greetings, stranger.
Greetings. What words are these that you two are exchanging as you walk, and are sad?
Art thou the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know these things that have happened there in these days?
What things?
Concerning Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in work and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and rulers delivered him up to be sentenced to death and crucified him. But we were hoping that it was he who should redeem Israel. Yes. And besides all this, today is the 3rd day since these things have come to pass. And moreover, certain women of our company who were at the tomb before it was light astounded us, and not finding his body, they came saying that they had also seen a vision of angels who said that he is alive. So some of our company went to the tomb and found it even as the women had said. But him they did not see. How is it you are not aware of these things?
O foolish ones, and slow of heart to believe in all that the prophets have spoken.
What of the prophets?
Did not Christ have to suffer these things before entering into his glory?
What? Suffer as he did? They beat him. They spat upon him. They mocked him. And then they scourged him and taunted him the more before nailing him to the cross.
Moses and all the prophets have written of these things.
And they cried out even as he was dying, "If thou art the Son of God, save thyself." And the chief priests, the soldiers, and many of the people cried out, saying in effect, "If thou art the Christ, why art thou now nailed to a cross? Why doesn't God save thee if thou art his Son?"
Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. All they that saw me have laughed me to scorn. They have spoken with the lips and wagged the head. He hoped in the Lord. Let him deliver him. Let him save him, seeing he delighteth in him. They have dug my hands and feet. They have numbered all my bones. They have looked and stared upon me, and seeing me they parted my garments amongst them, and upon my vesture they cast lots.
And beginning then with Moses, and with all the prophets, he interpreted to them in all the Scriptures the things referring to himself.
As it was written, so it came to pass. And they crucified 2 robbers with him, that the Scripture might be fulfilled. And he was reckoned among the wicked, and he was the first of the 3 to die, that the Scripture might be fulfilled. Not a bone of him shall you break. And a lance was thrust into his side, that they shall look upon him whom they have pierced. And thus the Scripture be fulfilled.
Who art thou that you should know these things? Oh, I have read the prophets with blinded eyes, but now so much is clear. But now it's getting dark. Stay with us. Let us have supper at Emmaus.
And the stranger walked with them to the village. And it came to pass, when he reclined with them, that he took the bread and blessed it. He broke it, and he gave it to them.
I recognize thee. Thou art the Christ. Thou art... Is gone. Vanished. Was not our heart burning within us while he was speaking on the road and explaining to us the Scriptures?
And they who were slow of heart to believe in all the prophets had spoken rose up that very hour and hastened back to Jerusalem, that they might tell the others of all these things they had heard and witnessed.
Not a sound. I'll see who it is. Who comes?
The office.
We hide here and bar the door for fear of the rulers.
We've just come from Emmaus, Peter. A most miraculous thing has happened.
The great thing has happened here. Simon has seen him.
What? Here too?
The Lord has risen indeed. He has appeared to Simon.
We too have seen him.
Where? What? Where?
We were on our way to Emmaus. He came to us as a stranger and explained all the Scripture to us. And we did not know him, though our hearts burned for the telling of it. And then we supped, and we recognized him in the breaking of the bread.
And did he speak to you?
No. The moment we recognized him, he disappeared.
Peace to you. It is I. Do not be afraid.
It is a spirit.
Why are you disturbed? Why do doubts arise in your hearts? See my hands and feet, that it is I myself. Feel me and see. For a spirit does not have flesh and bones, as you see I have.
It is true. It is true.
Have you anything here to eat?
Here. It's broiled fish and honeycomb.
And he took the fish and honeycomb, and ate it in their presence. And that which remained he gave to them, and he opened their minds, and spoke to them.
These are the words which I spoke to you while I was yet with you, that all things might be fulfilled that are written in the law of Moses and the prophets and the Psalms concerning me. Thus it is written, and thus the Christ should suffer, and should rise again from the dead on the third day, and that repentance and remission of sins should be preached in his name to all the nations, beginning from Jerusalem. And you yourselves are witnesses to these things. And I send forth upon you the promise of my Father. But wait here in the city until you are clothed with power from on high. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, even if he die, shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Dost thou believe this?
Yes, Lord. I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, who hast come into the world.
The National Broadcasting Company and its independent affiliated stations, in cooperation with the National Council of Catholic Men, present the Catholic Hour. On today's program, the speaker will be the Reverend Benjamin L. Massey of the Society of Jesus and Associate Editor of the publication America, who continues his series of addresses generally entitled Christ the King and the Social Encyclicals. The musical selections will be presented by the Schola Cantorum of Immaculate Conception Seminary, Darlington, New Jersey, under the direction of Mr. Joseph Murphy. In their first selection today, the choir invites us to join in offering homage to God as they sing a setting of the psalm Laudate Dominum, Praise Ye the Lord. The music is by the composer Ciro Grassi. present now another address by Father Benjamin L. Massey of the Society of Jesus in his series generally entitled Christ the King and the Social Encyclicals. The address we are about to hear is entitled Safeguarding Our Future.
My dear friends, if our civilization should ever fall before one of the systems of modern slavery, the main reason will not be the breakdown of our economic machine, or the failure of our foreign policy, or even the weakness of our armed services. All these factors have their importance, and it would be dangerous to neglect any one of them. But if there be any lesson for the present in the record of the past, they are not as important as the well-being of the home and the family. For the evidence of history is clear. The family is the basis of civilization. Where family life declines, nations rot and cultures decay. Even if we had no records of the past, if the civilizations of yesterday had disappeared as completely as the lost tribes of Israel, we would still be certain that the family is the rock of society. For the children of today are the citizens of tomorrow. If there are few of them, it stands to reason that the population will fall and the nation decline. If there are many of them, but they are not properly raised, the population may not fall, but the nation will decline nevertheless. For disobedient and irresponsible children do not make law-abiding and responsible citizens. Now, the fact is that the American home has lost much of its original strength and stability. The warning signs of weakness in family life, of growth in juvenile crime and delinquency, a falling birth rate, a rise in the divorce rate, are too easy to be misunderstood. Over the growth of juvenile crime, the United States Department of Justice became so worried last year that it drafted a program of preventive measures on a national scale. It took this unprecedented action when figures revealed that 21% of all arrests were of persons under 21 years of age, and that more persons aged 17 were arrested than in any other age group. Our feeble birth rate is another weak spot. Except for temporary fluctuations, it has been falling for the past 100 years. If it continues to decline, even at a somewhat slower rate than it has in the recent past, the population of the United States will reach its highest point 50 years from now, and thereafter begin to fall. If the past rate of decline is maintained or even accelerated, the situation, of course, will be just so much worse. But juvenile delinquency and the falling birth rate are not the most disturbing aspects of contemporary family life. The most dangerous development of all is a sharp and scandalous rise in the divorce rate. According to a report of the Federal Security Agency, divorces in 1945 increased 25% over the previous year and reached the frightening figure of 502,000. If the marriage rate is taken into account, this means that for every 3 marriages last year, there was 1 divorce. Even these cold, lifeless figures are ominous enough. But imagine the extent of the tragedy when statistics are translated into human terms of broken homes and maladjusted children. As a nation, then, we are not doing a very good job of maintaining the sanctity and integrity of the American home. We are not bringing sufficient children into the world to maintain our population. And too frequently, despite a lavish budget for education, we are not raising the ones that are born to be useful, law-abiding citizens. In the present unsettled condition of the world, we have determined as a matter of national policy to maintain the strength of our armed services. But what good will it do to spend billions on armaments if at the same time we permit the nation to rot from within? Let us remain strong by all means, militarily and industrially, until the threat of war has been banished from the modern world. But let us concentrate our main effort on the foundation of our national strength, the American home. There was a time when Jesus Christ was king in the vast majority of our American homes, when family life took its inspiration from the life of the Holy Family at Nazareth. Husbands and wives looked upon their marriage contracts as a sacred thing, and they remembered, as they pledged fidelity to one another, a marriage feast celebrated long years ago at Cana in Galilee. They looked upon Christ as a partner to their marriage, and their love for one another was deeper and truer because of their love for Him. Children meant sacrifices in those days just as they do today. But our Christian forebears were not frightened by this. They knew very well that marriage is something more than an everlasting honeymoon, that it does not exist merely for the individual pleasure of husband and wife. Having been raised as Christians, they knew that marriage involves responsibilities as well as pleasures, and that only by fulfilling their family duties could they fulfill themselves. Our ancestors did not run away like cowards from the reality of life. They accepted it wholeheartedly, recalling that their king before them had walked the royal road of the cross. They took upon themselves the yoke and the burden, and they discovered, as the followers of Christ always do discover, that His yoke is sweet, His burden light. And so by accepting marriage honestly and bravely, they made a success of it, and found a happiness in their homes which their modern descendants frequently do not know. No wonder that in those days there was not one divorce, that is to say, one failure for every 3 marriages. When the majority of our families accepted the rule of Jesus Christ, we spent much less per capita on education than we do now. But the juvenile delinquency and juvenile crime figures were much lower. Children were taught in those days to know and love Jesus Christ. They learned their prayers literally at their mother's knees. They were trained in all those virtues: honesty, loyalty, unselfishness, obedience, and respect for lawful authority, which make a child at the same time a good citizen of the kingdom of Christ and a good citizen of the United States. As far as the education of our children goes, the failure of the home would not be so dangerous today if the schools were supplying its deficiencies. But the majority of our schools cannot remedy the very weakness in the home which is causing all the trouble. They cannot, alas, give Jesus Christ to the children, to be their inspiration, their model, and their king. They can, it is true, teach morals and civic virtue. But how long will there graduate practice of virtue that is divorced from religious motives and sanctions? In this connection, the man whom we hail as the father of our country warned in his stirring farewell address, "Let us with caution indulge the supposition that morality can be maintained without religion. Whatever may be conceded to the influence of refined education on minds of peculiar structure, reason and experience both forbid us to expect that national morality can prevail in exclusion of religious principles." If the great George Washington is correct in this belief, we cannot place much reliance on a system of education which separates morals from religion. And so we are right back where we started, in the home. We are forced to the logical conclusion that if the future of our country is to be made secure, if we are to stop the growth of the cancer that is weakening our democracy, we must restore American family life to Jesus Christ. In no other way will millions of our children ever hear of Jesus Christ. Now, this is a kind of reform that cannot be accomplished by law. It must come from our hearts, from within, from the free determination of husbands and wives to rededicate themselves to Christ and to live their married lives as He desires and commands. What we need is a kind of moral revolution that will overturn the modern idols of materialism and selfish individualism and restore Christ to the place of honor and power that is rightfully His. We must return, in short, to those sacred beliefs which give to marriage a special dignity and nobility, and which make of every home in the land a nursery of Christian morals and civic righteousness. Perhaps, my dear friends, as we sit thinking over these ideas together, we may be asking ourselves whether Jesus Christ is King in our home. If I may, I should like to suggest a very simple test. Imagine our Lord knocking at the door this afternoon and entering our home. As He entered the homes of those fortunate people who were His neighbors here on earth, would Christ feel at home in our home? Would He commend the pure, generous, self-sacrificing love between husband and wife? Would He smile His approval when He saw the children and noted their honesty and obedience and spirit of helpfulness, their affection for one another, and their loving respect for their parents? Would Jesus Christ enjoy the atmosphere of our home? Because it is serious without being sad, joyous and gay without being dissipated. Because, in a word, it is Christian. Would we be ashamed to receive Christ as our guest now, this afternoon? If the thought of Christ entering our family circle disturbs our conscience, then He is not King of our home, at least not fully. We have not denied Him, perhaps, but we have not given Him either the complete loyalty which we owe Him. Maybe that is why our family burdens sometimes press so heavily, why we are tempted to throw off the yoke which we freely and gladly assumed in the days of our young womanhood and manhood. If the love between husband and wife has grown somewhat stale, maybe the reason is that their love for Christ has first grown cold. Maybe our life at home is unhappy because Christ no longer rules there as king. These are questions we must answer for ourselves, for no one else in the world can answer them for us. Before we answer them honestly before God, let us remember that the fathers and mothers of America hold in their hands the happiness and well-being of our homes. And more than the happiness and well-being of our homes, the fathers and mothers of America hold in their hands in all truth the whole future of these United States and even of the world.
You have just heard an address delivered by Father Benjamin L. Massey entitled Safeguarding Our Future. You may have a free copy of this address by writing to the National Council of Catholic Men, Washington 5, D.C., or to your favorite NBC station. And now the choir chants the tenderly beautiful antiphon to the Blessed Virgin, Salve Regina, Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. Dedicated to the mystery of Christ's presence under the form of bread and wine, we now hear Raimondi's setting of O Sacrum Convivium, O Holy Banquet. and every Sunday, the Catholic Hour offers a prayer for a just and a lasting peace. We invite you to join with us now. O God, from whose hands cometh the peace of men and of nations, grant us in thy mercy to dwell in concord with all peoples. Give prosperity to our own dear land, and fill it with love of thee. We pray for our President, for our Congress, for all who have worked and fought and died to preserve our country. Grant, we beseech thee, a haven of rest to our returning heroes, and eternal happiness to those who have laid down their lives that this nation might live. Reunite us all, O dear Lord, in heaven, that city of everlasting peace, where, after the shadows of this life, we may dwell in the eternal morning of thy blessedness. At the call of His Holiness Pope Pius XII, a worldwide Mission Sunday will be observed next week. In anticipation of this day, and to remind our listeners to participate in this great work, our choir sings the hymn, Faith of Our Fathers. Today, the Catholic Hour has presented an address by Father Benjamin L. Massey of the Society of Jesus, entitled Safeguarding of Our Future. The music was rendered by the choir of the Immaculate Conception Seminary in Darlington, New Jersey, under the direction of Mr. Joseph Murphy. Father Massey will be with us again at the same time next Sunday to deliver another address entitled War in the Marketplace. We invite you to be with us then.
This is the hour of St. Francis. This is a story about St. Francis of Assisi and Mr. Harvey Tompkins, manager of Aeronautical Supplies Incorporated. You see, much as St. Francis loves heaven,
He's never gotten over his liking for our world and all the people in it. He likes to come down to earth every once in a while. On one of his recent visits, he wandered through the side entrance of the executive grill during the noon rush hour. Slipping into a chair behind the pillar, he was just in time to catch Mr. Harvey Tompkins in passionate monologue.
Now, don't ask me if there's any church near Forest Lodge. I thought we were going up there for a fishing trip, not a revival meeting. Now, don't get me wrong, fellas. I'm not an atheist, and I'm not against organized religion, if anybody likes that kind of stuff. But, well, I've got my own way of being religious, and nobody's going to tell me I've got to do anything different. I'll do my praying up in the woods while I'm fishing. Well, all right. Go ahead and laugh. Why should I go stick myself in a dark old building with pews that give you a cramp and listen to some fellow spout a lot of stuff I've heard 100 times before? Now, religion is supposed to make you feel good. And I don't get any feeling of peace and brotherly love out of a lot of rigmarole. Most people feel just like I do. That's why most of them don't go to church anymore. Lots of good people, too. You take St. Francis of Assisi. He got his religion from being close to nature. He worshipped out in the woods. He didn't let anybody tell him he had to feel religious at 10 a.m. on the seventh day of the week. Don't you agree with me that he... Oh, I was right. What? Well, don't you... Hey, fellas, now don't rush off and leave me. I haven't finished my coffee.
Gotta go now, Harv. I'll see you later.
Oh. Hey, you behind the pillar there. You agree with me, don't you? What's your name?
Francis.
Well, mine's Tompkins, Harvey Tompkins, manager of Aeronautical Supplies Incorporated.
Mr. Tompkins, I want to speak to you about Francis of Assisi.
Yeah?
Well, for the sake of truth, I must tell you that he did pray often in churches. When he first heard the call of God, he was in a church.
Oh, I never heard that before. I don't believe it. No. I'm still not taking back what I said. I pray when I feel like it, and if I don't feel like it, I just don't do it, that's all.
So you think a man's feelings should rule his life and all that he does?
Well, sure. If a man just follows what's in his own heart, he can't go wrong.
Mr. Tompkins, let's see what your world would be like if people followed their feelings. You'd go back to your place of business?
Did you ring, Mr. Tompkins?
Ring? I've got the buzzer pushed halfway through the desk. Where the Sam Hill have you been all afternoon? Do you know it's 2:30? What time did you go to lunch?
11:30. Oh, it was such a beautiful day, and I felt like going shopping. I got the darlingest new hat. I've been looking all over for one like this, and today I just had the feeling that
Look,
if I
I'm paying you to work, not window shop. Bring your notebook in here. No, get Carlisle on the phone. I told him to be here at 1 o'clock.
Oh, he called while you were out to lunch. He wanted you to meet him at the clubhouse at 1:30. He said he just felt in the mood to break 70 on the Greenways course.
But he can't play golf today. He's my attorney, and I've got to have him to close that Martin deal, and we lose $10,000. Oh, my gosh, Miss Peters, where are you going now? I got some dictation.
And I've got a date for a swell show. See you soon, boss.
Miss Peters, this is my office, and you're my stenographer.
And this is your broken-down typewriter that I have to pound on all day.
Oh!
Now, maybe you'll believe that your typewriter's an old wreck.
Tenth Avenue bus. Take your time, people. Get in the bus through the back and the front door. Don't hurry. I got all day. All day I got. Okay, Bub, you're the last man in. I'm not taking any more because you won't have a seat. Breaks my heart to think of you people standing up all the way down 3rd Street.
All the way down 3rd Street? What bus is this? I wanted the 10th Avenue bus.
Well, we're going down 3rd Street, and don't tell me I can't because I'm driving. Every day I have to go down 10th Avenue. For 3 years, 6 days a week, I have to go down 10th Avenue. I hate 10th Avenue.
But that's your business. You're supposed to operate this bus for the public service.
Sit back and relax, Bub. Or maybe you'd like to walk home, huh?
I'll take your number. I'll report you. I will see.
That you, Pop? Got your rubbers on?
Open the door, Howard, and don't be funny. I had to walk all the way from 3rd Street, 7 blocks. Howard, What's that on the floor?
Looks like water, tastes like water. It ain't beer. You know that leak upstairs you told Mom to have the plumber fix? Well, she felt like trying a little work on it herself. I'll never get her license on this job.
Don't just stand there talking. Do something. Look at the water coming down those stairs. Where's your mother? Where's the plumber?
Well, Mom walked off to a show. Said she just didn't feel like listening to you holler when you saw the place.
Oh.
Gee, I'm glad I found these hip boots.
Where's the phone book? I'll get a plumber. There. Here's one, only up the block. Central. CE 2 4 3 1. Look at this place. It's terrible. Hurry up.
Bailey's Plumbing. Mrs. Bailey, but I'm not the plumber.
Well, then let me speak to the plumber. I'm having a flood.
Oh, that's interesting. But I couldn't bother Mr. Bailey now. He's communing.
I don't give a hoot what he's doing. Tell him to come over here. My pipes are all busted.
The way you're shouting, it don't sound to me like anything's wrong with your pipes. I wouldn't dare interrupt Mr. Bailey when he's communing with the infinite. He got the feeling right in the middle of supper, and he rushed right out in the backyard under the persimmon tree. Why, he hasn't felt the urge to pray in 6 months, and all of a sudden...
Oh, all the confounded tomfoolery. Oh, my gosh, the water's up to my ankles. Howard, come upstairs with me. We'll have to do something to stop this. We're losing our hold.
Pop, the last thing I feel like doing tonight is paddling around in a lot of cold water. Mom's felt like moving for a long time anyway.
Stop that nonsense and do exactly as I tell you.
Sorry, Pop. I'm heading for the open spaces. The water hasn't gotten as far as the garage, that is. Boy, what a mess. I'm getting out. I'll talk you in or two as you float by.
Howard! Howard, son!
And that, Mr. Tompkins, is what your world would be like if people did as they felt.
Oh, gosh, you make it sound pretty awful. Say, people would just keep running into one another all the time, wouldn't they? They'd want something, and, well, I'd want something different.
And who is to decide which one will get his heart's desire? My brother, there are two kinds of wanting. There's the wanting to do what you want, and there's the wanting to do the will of God.
Now, the more I think of it, the crazier it gets. Everybody doing just as they darn well please. You couldn't get any place with that system. That's just what I'm always telling Howard. He's a good kid, but he's got a stubborn streak. I tell him, well, you can't do just what you want to do in the house there. Somebody's got to be boss, and that's me. Yeah, you've got duties and responsibilities to your family and your community.
And to God.
Well, now, that's a different thing. I was being practical. When it comes to family affairs and business, you have to be practical. You've got to obey the rules or you don't get any place.
My poor brother, do you think God has established no rules for the business of our salvation? He does not put each one of us here and let us find our own way to Him, as if we were the first in all the world to reach Him. He has smoothed the road. He asks us only to follow.
I don't see it at all. Now, people all are different, so religion has to be different for each one of them. Well, I've got to be getting back to the office. It's very nice talking with you.
In your kindness, will you walk with me down this street only 1 block? You have lost a great treasure, and I want to show you how to find it.
Did I lose something? Wait a minute. Oh, no. My wallet's here. My keys are in it.
My brother, you have lost the greatest treasure in the world, and the key which unlocks the door of life. You cannot find the way to God by losing yourself in the deep woods. He is here with you now. Look, you can see on the corner here the sign of his house, the steeple with the cross like 2 hands joined and pointed toward heaven.
Oh, you mean that little old church? I've passed that lots of times. Sure gets me why they ever stuck a church down here in the business district.
Don't you have all over your city houses for money, which you call banks?
Well...
You have houses for eating and for the selling of goods. Shouldn't God have a place of His own among His people?
Well, I can't picture God in that kind of a shack.
Christ our Savior was born in a stable. He died upon a barren hill. He wants to be with us.
Well, He wouldn't expect anybody to worship Him here when He's made all the beautiful outdoors.
One of the first commands He gave His people was to build Him a house. My brother, He knows our weakness, how quickly we forget one whom we cannot see. Even in his gifts, we forget him, the giver. Mr. Tompkins, do you feel like worshiping God in the winter woods when the trees are bare and the ground is covered with frost?
Well, no, it doesn't give you the same feeling.
Then you pray only in the spring and in the summer when the trees are green. Oh, my poor brother, you don't even know what a church is for.
Well, I know what it's supposed to be for.
No, you do not understand yet. This is a holy place, a place of prayer and sacrifice. God himself has told us, "My house shall be called the house of prayer." Churches are not meant to be places where we sit at ease and listen to fine music and beautiful words. Have you no theaters where you can go for these things?
Yeah, sure, but, I work hard all week. Sunday's the only day I've got to rest.
Oh, my brother, God has given you all the years of your life, and you cannot give him even 1 hour in 7 days. If the president of this company of yours asked you to spend 1 hour in a week talking to him, if he promised you great gifts each time you came, would you say, "No, I am weary, I must rest"?
That is entirely different. That's something practical.
God offers you daily the gift of eternal life. Does a practical man refuse a gift such as that? Come into God's house, my brother. Look, the door is always open. We adore thee, O Christ, and we bless thee here and in all thy churches, everywhere throughout the world, because by thy holy cross thou hast redeemed the world.
Oh, my gosh. Lucky I looked at my watch. It's 1 o'clock already. I've got to get back for an appointment. I'll phone from across the street. I can just about make this line.
Mr. Tompkins, wait.
Oh, Mr. Tompkins, let me help you. Come on. Here, sit on the church steps.
Gee, mister, he missed you by a whisker. Can I do anything?
Oh, no, thanks, son. Gosh, I saw him coming. I couldn't do anything.
You didn't feel at all like dying on this fine day, which you had planned so full of work.
Well, that would be the last thing in the world I'd want to do.
My brother, there will come a day when you must die, just as you almost died today. God will give no heed to your feelings. Yet you stand before your Creator and your Father at the door of his house, so pitiful and so foolish in your pride, and you say to him, who controls all the machinery of life, "I am wiser than you. I know better what is good for me. Therefore I will not obey your commandments. I will not enter your house as you have directed. I will not pray as you have bidden me. I will not serve."
Between you and that car, I'm beginning to feel... maybe I am a fool.
Good. Then there is hope for you. There is many a fool in the kingdom of heaven. But, my brother, there is no one there who thought himself wiser than God.
This quarter hour has been brought to you by the Third Order of St. Francis. For a copy of this program entitled St. Francis and Mr. Tompkins, or the Peace Prayer of St. Francis, write to the Hour of St. Francis in care of this station.
city of Jerusalem, crowded at all times, filled to overflowing during the annual feasts of the Passover. Travelers from all the lands of Israel thronged to the great temple. The mighty courts resounded to the blaring ram's horn trumpets. The smoke of burning offerings ascended from the altars. It was to this same temple that 3 decades before, Joseph and Mary had brought the infant Jesus for the sacred rite of dedication. It was within these vast courtyards that in his boyhood he had impressed the scribes and the sages with his wisdom and understanding. Here he had returned in the early days of his earthly mission as an unheralded teacher, unknown except in his homeland of distant Galilee. It was through the streets leading to the temple that the people had hailed him in a sudden, spontaneous accolade, shouting, "Hosanna, Hosanna to he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hail to Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." And it was here that he had looked upon the outer courtyard, upon the vendors of sacrificial animals, the sellers of oils and incense, the changers of currency, and had turned away with tears in his eyes. On the following day, Jesus and the 12 came from Bethany and entered the temple.
Sacrificial altars, oil, rare oil.
Have them copied, the Shufka, with the changes I authorized.
Yes, Excellency.
Excellency, my Lord Caiaphas, the Nazarene has returned.
How many are with him?
Only his closest disciples, 11 or 12.
Where is he now?
In the inner temple, praying. Excellency, what shall we do?
Do? Let him pray. Yesterday he had half of Judea at his back, and he turned away. And the people saw that he feared us. Now let them see that we ignore him.
Yes, Excellency.
8 is all that is worth. 8 and no more. Do you think you know the value of Gentile coins better than I do? There, 8 pieces. Take them or I'll call the gods.
Only temple coins are acceptable. Coins of any exchange all money here. Coins are acceptable for payment. Rare oil. Exchange all money here. To the Almighty. Coins of any land. Coins exchange. Lamps for the sacrificial altars. Oil. Rare oil. Oil for tribute to the Almighty. Coins exchange. Coins of any land. Only temple coins are acceptable. Coins of any land.
The people are curious, thoughtless, fickle. But remind them of the authority of the temple. Keep it ever before them.
The Nazarene.
You shall not make my Father's house into a marketplace. Is it not written, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations? But you have made it a den of robbers.
Caiaphas?
Here.
Messias has returned. The Nazarene's in Bethany, dining with his disciples, surrounded by a horde of followers. Messias mingled with them, pretended to be one of them. He reports that they're saying that Jesus is a prophet, the son of David, the Messiah of Scripture. They're saying that a wealthy woman thrust into where he was seated at table and anointed his hair with rare oil as though he were already a king. Do you think he'll lead a revolt against us?
I think he has. Yesterday he entered the city to a thunder of cheers. Today he stormed the court of all nations, defied my authority, openly, brazenly.
And tomorrow.
Tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, they've changed things around since I was last here. Changed? Used to look like a stockyard. Bullocks and goats, sheep and pigeons for sacrifices. Money changers' tables over there. They were there until 3 days ago. New young teacher, a man from the north, drove them out single-handed. One man. One man. To be exact, that man. Jesus Bar Joseph from Nazareth in Galilee. You know he's a man of courage. Well, I wouldn't call a money changers a valiant sort of enemy. Well, I don't mean just for baiting them, but for having the nerve to come back here. He must realize that the high priest can stand no such opposition. Uh-oh. What's wrong? There go to a car at its closest age. Let's stroll over and see what's happening.
This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes.
We know that you are true, and do not regard the position of man, but truly teach the words of God. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not?
A very choice trap. If he says pay, the entire crowd turns against him. Don't pay, and I arrest him for treason.
Well, come, teacher, answer. Should we pay them or should we not?
Why put me to the test?
Because of your great authority and wisdom.
Show me a coin. Whose likeness and inscription is on it?
Why, Caesar's.
Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's.
Disgusting. Contemptible. He should be cast out of the temple. Banned from it forever. And make a bad situation worse. If we let him go on, everyone will believe in him.
And the Romans will destroy both our holy place and our nation.
I fear Pilate's troops less than I fear the people. They love us little enough as it is.
And less every day that they hear the Galilean.
But acting against him will only inflame them. We can never justify such an act to them. That I know.
You know nothing. You do not understand it is expedient that one man should die for the people. Not that a whole nation shall perish.
I agree completely, Excellency, completely.
If it were not that he had so deluded...
I certainly have no love for him.
Excellency.
How is he called?
Judas, Excellency. Judas Iscariot.
And the upper room of an inn had been prepared for the feast of the unleavened bread.
My children, I have earnestly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer it. For I tell you, I shall never eat it again until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God. Truly I say to you, one of you will betray me, one who is eating with me.
Is it I, Master?
Surely none of us. Betray you, Master.
Who could it be, Master?
Oh, no, Rabbi, it couldn't be.
No, Master, no.
It is one of the 12 who is dipping bread with me. For the Son of Man goes as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would be better for that man if he had not been born. what you are going to do. Do quickly. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the world, who dost bring forth bread from the earth. Take, eat. This is my body, which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the world, who has created the fruit of the vine. This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. Do this as often as you drink it, in remembrance of me. Truly I say to you, I shall not drink again of the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new in the kingdom of God. Little children, yet a little while I am with you. You will seek me. So now I say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you, that you also love one another.
Lord, why cannot I follow you now? I will lay down my life for you.
Will you lay down your life for me?
Yes, Master. Yes. Even if they all fall away, I will not.
Truly I say to you, this very night before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times.
No, Master, no. If I must die with you, I won't deny you.
We will not fail you, teacher. You know that I love you.
Depend on me, Master.
None of us could betray you.
No, no.
And he went out, as was his custom, to a garden named Gethsemane.
Wait here while I pray. Come with me. My soul is very sorrowful, even unto death. Remain here and watch. Father, all things are possible to thee. If thou art willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. Simon, are you asleep?
Master.
Could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Master.
Behold, the hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners.
Master.
Judas, would you betray the Son of Man with a kiss?
That's the man. Lead him.
It was not to the temple that Jesus was taken, but to the home of Annas, where a small portion of the Sanhedrin prepared to hear him and judge him.
It's high time he was taught a lesson, flaunting all authority, starting a near riot on temple grounds.
Riot? What riot? There could have been bloodshed. The day he led that howling mob to the very gates.
He attacked the merchants, the money changers, the sellers of doves and lambs.
Oh, yes.
Sacrilege. There's no question about it. I'm ready to find him guilty now.
There's little doubt that he is deserving of punishment. Let us, however, wait and see what the hearing develops. There have been rumors that he has set himself up as a king. An act of treason against Caesar. Our concern, of course, is not with that, rather with his blasphemies, the false prophecies, his attempts to mislead the people. If, however, we should learn that he is guilty of treason against Rome, then it would be our duty to turn him over to the procurator.
Stand there. Now, what have you to say of this man?
Most noble Excellency, I was in the court of the Gentiles, and with my own ears I heard him say he could tear down the whole temple, all of it, in 3 days' time.
That is not quite right, Your Excellencies. What he did say was that if the temple were destroyed, he could build another like it in 3 days, with his bare hands.
No, he said he could tear it down, not rebuild it.
I was as close to him as you were. I heard what he said.
Enough. You may go.
You waste time. These fools don't even have sense enough to agree.
The Tsar and I told them.
Jesus of Nazareth, step forward. You have heard the statements of the witnesses. Have you no answer to make? What is it that these men testify against you? I adjure you by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of the Blessed.
You have said so. But I tell you, hereafter you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power, and coming with the clouds of heaven.
Blasphemy! Why do we still need witnesses? You've heard it's blasphemy. What is your decision?
Guilty. Guilty on all charges. He has blasphemed.
Guilty?
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty. As the day dawned, Jesus was taken to the palace where the procurator was staying. Those who escorted him, having already purified themselves for the observance of Passover rites, declined to enter the abode of a Gentile. Pilate, awakened before his accustomed hour, was in a surly mood.
Good morning, Your Excellency.
If a matter weren't of such urgency.
We regret urgently having interfered.
But it will only take a moment of
This man you've brought to me, of what is he accused?
He incited the people to riot in the very courtyard of the temple.
Why, he even claims to be the Messiah, the Christ, the Son of God.
He encourages his followers to hail him as the King of all the Jews.
These affairs are yours, not Rome's. Take him. Judge him according to your laws.
We have, Excellency, and found him deserving of death.
All we ask is your endorsement of our findings.
If he were not guilty, we wouldn't have brought him here.
Wait here.
And Pilate questioned Jesus, seeking to find if there was truth to the charge that he had plotted to proclaim himself a king.
Are you a king, then?
You say I am the king. To this end was I born, and for this cause I came into the world, that I should bear witness for the truth. Everyone that is of the truth hears my voice.
Truth. What is truth? I find no fault in the man.
But he has stirred up the people.
Yes, he's spoken again to be king himself.
All over Judea, from here to Galilee.
From Galilee? Is he a Galilean?
Yes, he comes from Nazareth.
Then he comes under Herod's jurisdiction, not mine. Centurion.
Yes, Your Excellency.
Have the prisoner taken to the Tetrarch.
But, Excellency, wait if you'll give us a moment.
And Jesus was brought before Herod. And Herod demanded that some sign or miracle be done by him. But Jesus answered him not. And the priests and the scribes stood by, vehemently accusing him. And Herod and those with him treated him with contempt and mocked him. And arraying him in a tattered robe, jeering him as a pretender who called himself a king, they sent him back to Pilate. And so Jesus was once more brought before the procurator.
You brought the man to me as one who incites the people. I questioned him. I found no fault in him. No guilt in the things of which he was accused. No, nor did Herod. The prisoner's done nothing to merit death. I will have him chastised and then released.
No, whipping is not enough. Yes, do away with it.
As he was flogged, brambles were taken and woven together. And sneering at the prisoner whom the crowds had hailed as king, the guards placed a crown on his head, a crown of thorns.
You have heard how many things they have witnessed against you. They say you call yourself the Son of God. Who are you? From where do you come? Why don't you answer? Don't you realize I have the power to release you or crucify you?
You could have no power at all against me, except it were given you from above. Therefore, he that delivered me to you has the greater sin.
If you release that man, you're no friend of Caesar's.
I bring him before you so you may know I find no fault in him. Behold! It's a man. By custom, as at each Passover, I will free a prisoner to you. Will you have me release for you the King of the Jews? What then shall I do with Jesus called Christ? I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves. Release Barabbas.
And upon insistence that he be crucified, Pilate delivered him to their will.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The eternal light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our drama today continues the series of original radio fantasies, parables, and folk tales written by Morton Wishengrad and is entitled How They Knocked the Devil Out of Uncle Ezra. The narrator is Alexander Scorby. Uncle Ezra is played by martial artists, and Roger de Coleman appears as Isaac Aaron.
the town of Dalit, which lies adjacent to the town of Gimel in the province of Aleph Beis, there was born many years ago a rather unusual child. His facial features were quite ordinary, his body structure was average, and his family was altogether commonplace. And so, wherein, you will ask, was he unusual? He was a seventh son. But you smile. There have been millions of seventh sons. Very true. But none like this boy, Ezra. For each of his 6 older brothers, and for that matter, each of his 7 sisters, was at least 20 years his senior. In short, Ezra was a rather remarkable product of old age.
Father, do you think your grandchildren can see the baby?
I see no objection. Let them all come in on tiptoe and take a look at their Uncle Ezra.
This was Ezra's chief distinction. At birth, he was already 21 times an uncle. And some years later, visitors to the town of Dalit would rub their eyes when a grown man passing a small boy would stop for a moment and say,
"Good morning, Uncle Ezra. Here are some marbles for you. Oh, by the way, my wedding is this Sunday. It would be a personal favor, Uncle Ezra, if you washed your face for the occasion."
Not long after, Uncle Ezra acquired 2 other distinctions. The first of these was an accumulation of superstitions, amulets, and incantations incredible in a boy so young.
Nihori, nihori, niburi, nikori. Say it twice and spit 3 times. It drives out bad luck.
The second of these latter distinctions was a slyness that had something demonic in it.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rabbi Zakarin.
Uncle Ezra didn't come for his lesson yesterday, so I thought I'd stop by.
The boy says he's sick.
Boys are occasionally sick when they have to go to school. You think I could see him?
It won't do any good, but you'll find him in there.
It never hurts to try.
Oh, my stomach. Oh.
Try a little more tremolo, like this. Oh.
For a teacher, Rabbi Zakarin, you have very little faith in human beings.
I have a good deal of faith in human beings, but very little faith in your stomachache.
It's a terrible stomachache.
You mind if I sit on your bed?
Oh, make yourself at home.
Thank you. Uncle Ezra, just man to man, how do you manage to get away with it?
Man to man.
You have my word.
Hmm? At the beginning, I used to say I had a headache.
It worked, didn't it?
Only the first 10 times. Then they began to get suspicious. My sisters insisted on feeling my head to see if it was hot.
I follow your line of reasoning.
Yes, I thought you'd get around to it, Rabbi Zakarin.
When your head isn't hot, they send you to school, don't they? But if you complain of a stomachache...
They've got to believe me because they can't prove it. Oh.
Very nice, but that'll do. Uncle Ezra, doesn't your conscience trouble you?
Oh, it did at first. I waited for God to punish me, but he didn't. He probably didn't even care. And, Rabbi Zakarin, if God doesn't care if I don't go to school, why should you?
Because you'll grow up to be an ignoramus. In a world like ours, it's a sin to be ignorant.
I like to be ignorant. There's more fun that way.
Oh, no. Uncle Ezra, you and I are going to have that out. Uncle Ezra, I'm going to fight you. In a friendly way, of course.
You can't win, Rabbi Zakarin.
I'm very glad you were able to stay to supper, Rabbi Zakarin.
So am I. I notice we're to have cake for dessert. Looks rather rich, perhaps a bit too rich for a boy just over a stomachache.
That's a sensible suggestion. Ezra, you'll have a dish of prunes for dessert.
Father, I want cake.
It isn't good for you. You'll have prunes.
Reb Isaac?
Yes, Uncle Ezra?
A very good try, but you can't win. Listen. Blessed art thou, O Lord, our God, King of the universe, who provides cakes and sweetmeats. Amen.
Ezra, I never heard that prayer.
Well, it's a blessing for cake. I just made it up. And if you'll be good enough to pass the cake, Rabbi Zakarin, I believe I'll have some.
If I don't pass the cake, Uncle Ezra?
You will have suffered me to recite a blessing in vain, which is an offense.
I see. Ignorance has its own logic and its own ritual. We'll let you in, Uncle Ezra. Eat your cake. And so, without anyone being aware of it, there was a conflict in the town of Dalit between Uncle Ezra and Reb Isaac Aaron. It was the boy versus the man, and the issue went far beyond the town of Dalit in the province of Aleph Beis. And what was the issue? Very simple. In me, in you, in every human being, there is a little of Uncle Ezra and a little of Reb Isaac Aaron, and much depends on which becomes the victor. You understand me? I know it. It's a riddle and it's a paradox. Let's be patient and see what happened when Uncle Ezra went his carefree way.
Now, don't forget, Uncle Ezra, the wedding's on Sunday.
Oh, I'll be there, nephew. I'll be there if for no other reason than to see you assert the supremacy of all males.
You feel well, Uncle Ezra?
Oh, yes, I feel fine, nephew.
Well, you talk crazy. What's this business about male supremacy?
Don't you know?
What am I supposed to know?
When you and the bride are standing under the canopy and the cantor sings and the rabbi is about to pronounce the benediction, she's going to try to step on your foot.
You're really crazy. Why should my future wife try to step on my foot just before the benediction?
Because if she does, it will mean that she will rule you. But if you step on her foot first, it means that you will rule her.
How do you know all this?
Never mind how I know.
Oh, it's superstitious nonsense. I'll have no part of it. I'm not that gullible.
Suit yourself, nephew. Blood is thicker than water. And I thought I'd warn you. If she steps on your foot first, I'm not the one who's going to be dominated. Well, you're probably right anyhow. Just a lot of nonsense. Uncle Ezra, he wouldn't do a thing like that. How do you know? Because he loves me as much as I love him. You're very beautiful, Naomi. I'm sorry I spoke. Forget it.
Uncle Ezra, are you sure he plans to step on my foot while we stand under the bridal canopy?
Oh, forget it, Naomi. It isn't really important.
So he really thinks he can dominate me for the rest of my life?
Oh, I shouldn't have brought it up, Naomi. Don't put any stock in those old wives' tales.
You believe in it, Uncle Ezra, don't you?
Oh, I'm just a boy. I'll grow out of it.
You're sweet. Uncle Ezra, I want to give you a kiss.
Oh, I don't deserve it, Naomi.
You do? Yes, you really do. So he thinks he's going to dominate me, does he? Ha!
The bridegroom will place the ring upon the forefinger of the bride's right hand. Am I talking to myself? I said the bridegroom will now place the ring upon the forefinger of the bride.
You missed, Naomi. It's my turn now.
A wedding or a foot race? Children, stop before you cripple one out of a life. Somebody stop them.
Rabbi, they're silly, aren't
Of course, it's only a foolish superstition.
That's exactly what I told them, Rabbi Zechariah. In exactly those words.
It is not recorded what Reb Isaac Aaron replied, but the scholar and teacher of the town of Dalit had lost the second encounter to Uncle Ezra. For truth requires knowledge to nourish it, while ignorance feeds handsomely upon itself. From that moment on, there was neither bride nor bridegroom in the town of Dalit who did not approach the marriage ceremony except with misgiving and trepidation. The first prerequisite for marriage became a limber ankle, a quick instep, and a determination to step first and to step hard. This was the beginning of the ascendancy of Uncle Ezra.
If you've had a bad dream during the night, spit 3 times when you wake up.
People of Dalit, stop spitting. Don't listen to the boy.
Never step across a child or he won't grow.
You're not going to believe that, are you?
No, I don't exactly believe it, but there's no sense in taking chances, is there?
If your right eye itches, you'll be happy. If your left eye itches, you'll cry before the day is out.
Nonsense. Pay no attention. If either eye itches, wash it with boric acid or go to the doctor.
Knock on wood, 13's unlucky. Never start a journey on a Monday. Spit 3 times. Ni hori, ni hori, ni buri, ni kori.
Boy, you're a pagan.
I believe in the same God as you do, Isaac Aaron.
You believe in many gods, gods of luck and misfortune. Uncle Ezra, you're an idolater.
You've lost, Rabbi Isaac Aaron. If I had lost, I'd not call you names.
Thou shalt be wholehearted with the Lord thy God. That's a commandment. These people have listened to you. They're no longer wholehearted with the Lord.
Yes, they are. They pray for luck.
That's infamous.
What should they pray for?
For kindness, for justice, for peace. Uncle Ezra, do you worship luck or do you worship God?
He didn't answer. Uncle Ezra couldn't answer. He smiled, and his smile said nothing. Isaac Aaron studied him, and there was a look in the scholar's eye that had not been there before.
Uncle Ezra, I wouldn't be surprised if Satan himself is in you.
A rather odd thing for a scholar to say. But the thing seemed to be confirmed by a new commercial enterprise entered into by Uncle Ezra.
I cash sins, I buy sins. Little sins, medium sins, offenses, errors, faults, violations, small transgressions. I cash sins.
It seems a peasant had told Uncle Ezra that it was possible for a boy to acquire another boy's sin without injury to his soul while acquiring a little profit in the transaction.
I built a bonfire on the Sabbath. I didn't really mean to, but it's a sin. How much do you charge, Uncle Ezra?
Well, seeing it's you, 3 apples and that watch your cousin Michael broke on Hanukkah.
You're not afraid to buy my sin?
Oh, I'll have the 3 apples, won't I? I'm not afraid.
Here, 1, 2, 3 apples and the watch.
Thank you.
The sin is off my conscience.
And it's on mine.
Uncle Ezra, why don't you shiver?
What for?
Satan made me sin, and I sold you the sin.
What about it?
Uncle Ezra, how do you know that Satan himself isn't part of the bargain? How do you know that Satan himself is not in you at this moment?
Uncle Ezra pondered the idea and ate the apples. But somehow the commercial venture proceeded badly. The townspeople of Dalit seemed eager enough to sell their sins, but at the same time they seemed badly disposed toward the buyer. And because he began to be troubled by heads that were lowered and eyes that were averted, Uncle Ezra began to reconsider matters. It was peculiar. Dissatisfaction bred thought, and thought led to reflection, and reflection led him to Reb Isaac Aaron.
I think I'd like to go back to school again.
The only difficulty was that the townspeople of Dalit refused to unlearn the superstitions of Uncle Ezra.
Ni hori, ni hori, ni buri, ni kori. Say it twice and spit 3 times. It will keep away the evil eye.
I'll tell you something. Maybe there isn't any evil eye. Not really.
He's a liar. He says that because Satan is in him. He's trying to trap us. Get away, Satan. Get away.
And Reb Isaac Aaron stood nearby and smiled bitterly. And it wasn't long after that things began to happen in the town of Dalit.
May all the matriarchs of Israel blind my eyes.
Naomi, stop cursing yourself. What's wrong?
Taste this fish.
I'll have it for supper. I can wait.
Taste it now.
Don't raise your voice. I'll taste it.
This is sour.
Now taste this horseradish I just made. Taste it. Well?
It's impossible. Naomi, the fish is sour and the horseradish is sweet. It's impossible.
No, not impossible when Satan is around. Where is Uncle Ezra?
Benjamin is going to blow the ram's horn and show us how it's going to sound on Rosh Hashanah. Are you ready, Benjamin? All right. Go on, blow it. Benjamin, what's the matter?
I don't know. This never happened before.
Are you the most celebrated virtuoso on the ram's horn or not?
The best in the entire province of Aleph Bays.
Even if you have to say so yourself. Then blow, Benjamin. Sound the shofar. Make room, everyone. There he blows. Stop before your eyes pop out. Stop, Benjamin.
It can't happen to me. I'm disgraced.
No, you're not disgraced.
No.
I know why you can't get any sound out of the ram's horn.
You do.
Something's in it.
What?
Satan, Benjamin. Satan is in the ram's horn, holding back the holy sound. Get a broomstick. We're going to find Uncle Ezra.
Blame it on Uncle Ezra, blame it on Satan, I don't care. This festival of Sukkot, I don't sing in the synagogue.
But you can't refuse. You're the cantor of Dolly.
I don't sing.
People will demand an explanation.
I'll tell them. Who am I, I'll ask. The cantor of Dolly, they'll answer. In what do I sing, I'll ask. In the tallest and whitest skull cap in the entire province of Olive Bays, they'll answer. And what is on the tallest and whitest skull cap in the entire province of Olive Bays? A beautiful white tassel, they'll say. And where is the white tassel now? Uncle Ezra took it. Satan took it. No white tassel, no singing. I'm not in competition with Satan. No. Not a single note.
Red Isaac Aaron, this is the last straw.
What is, Sarah Lee?
Is this flour?
It looks like it.
Is this an egg?
A respectable egg from a respectable, peace-loving hen.
And is this yeast? Is this oil? Is this salt? And is this sugar?
Without a question, but calm yourself.
I'll have apoplexy before the day is over. I took ingredients just like this. I made this dough, the same dough to make the same twist that I make each Sabbath and holiday except Passover. My mother baked her twist that way. My mother's mother baked her twist that way. It was a twist. Here's the dough. I twisted it.
Sarah Leah, it's twisted very nicely.
Wait. May 16,000 black plagues never take Uncle Ezra between the eyes. Just wait.
It's still twisted.
May the cholera never loosen his back teeth. Keep looking.
I don't see a thing, Sarah Leah.
Look now. The twist untwisted. Satan has crawled into my dough. Yes, Uncle Ezra.
With pitchforks, broom handles, sticks, kitchen knives, the townspeople of Dalit in the province of Olive Bays began to march.
Get the sweet horseradish, Naomi.
Naomi marched with the sour fish and the sweet horseradish. The cantor marched without his white tassel. Sarah Leah marched with the twistless twist. Benjamin, the virtuoso on the ram's horn, marched with the useless chauffeur to his lips. They marched with grimness.
We're going to find him.
And when we find him, it's going to be just too bad.
Gentlemen,
what do you propose to do?
nothing. Not a thing. All we're going to do is knock the devil out of Uncle Ezra.
They found Uncle Ezra cowering in a small tree beside a little stream.
Throw him in! Good. I know the way to get the devil out of him. Immerse him underwater 3 times and take him out only twice.
Quiet, you fool! I said quiet! Pull him out. You want to drown the boy? I said pull him out.
Rabbi, the Karen, Satan is in him.
He made a bargain. I was there.
Fools, superstitious fools. Bring him here. Here's my coat, Uncle Ezra. Throw it around you.
Thank you, Rabbi Zikalan.
Look at yourselves, all of you. There's hate in your eyes. Your lips are thin and bloodless. People of Dalit, look what's happened to you. You fools, you've sacrificed your own divinity through ignorance. What kind of a world is this where stupidity and superstition unite men more than knowledge and learning? Satan is in it. You're an imbecile.
We've got to find a way to knock it out of him.
You're the chief imbecile. Be still, all of you. I'm a man of faith. You hear? And I've tried to be a man of knowledge. I've tried to teach your children, but you let your children teach you. Listen to me. Religion is not superstition. I deny that true religion can proceed from ignorance, because life will not tolerate ignorance. When faith is born of ignorance, faith is superstition. Now go home and be ashamed of yourselves.
Rabbi Isaac, if what you say is true, then who made my fish sour and my horseradish sweet?
Not Satan, Naomi.
Then who took my tassel?
I did.
Reb Isaac Aaron, do you realize what you're saying?
I realize it. Do you? All right, I'll tell you. Naomi, when sugar is put into horseradish becomes sweet. I put the sugar in, and I substituted rotten fish for fresh fish.
Why didn't my chauffeur blow?
Because when a rag is stuffed into a ram's horn, no chauffeur will blow.
But my untwistable twist, that was Satan's work.
My work, Sarah Leah. Feel the dough. There's a fine steel rod in it. I put it there.
Oh. Reb Isaac Aaron, you did all this because of me, didn't you?
Yes, Uncle Ezra. Because we're all men and women. Because we have eyes, we have minds. Our eyes are in front of us, not behind us.
Let's go home, Reb Isaac Aaron.
All right, Uncle Ezra. Take my hand.
No, Reb Isaac Aaron, you lead. I'll try to follow.
Oh, God bless you, Uncle Ezra. See, you sneeze, and that's a sign that everything Reb Isaac Aaron said is true.
No, Sarah Lee, that's pure superstition. I sneezed because I think I caught a cold in my head from being thrown in the river.
And of course, that was true. It was true in the town of Dalit, near the city of Gimel, in the province of Aleph Beis. It is true now. It will always be true. The conflict is perpetual. Knowledge or ignorance, man or boy, Reb Isaac Aaron or Uncle Ezra. Turn to the book of Proverbs, the 2nd chapter. Then shalt thou understand righteousness and justice and equity. For wisdom shall enter into thy heart, and knowledge shall be pleasant unto thy soul.
If you would like a free copy of the script you have just heard, write to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. And now we present a talk by Rabbi Albert I. Gordon, Executive Director of the United Synagogue of America, speaking from Chicago. Rabbi Gordon.
The dramatic tale to which we have just listened presents an important theme for our consideration. For the conflict represented in the persons of Reb Isaac Aaron and Uncle Ezra is truly an ever-present conflict. There have always been large numbers of men and women in all civilizations who have assumed that amulets, incantations, charms, and magical formulas of one kind or another could solve all human problems. There have been others, varying in number at various stages in the history of mankind, who have recognized the folly of such procedures and have placed their faith upon knowledge, learning, and understanding. They, along with Israel's sages, have always believed that ignorant men could not be regarded as truly pious. Let it be said to the glory of Judaism that it has placed its greatest emphasis upon knowledge, upon education as the means toward the attainment of God's will for humankind. So guarded have our Jewish sages been that they have, in biblical and post-biblical literature as well, denounced superstitious practices and the use of magical formulas and slogans as an act of impiety. It seems to me that in this day and age, we may well learn something of value from this tale, for we are ourselves guilty of perpetuating just such errors, both in our thinking and in our actions. Consider for a moment how frequently we have used the phrase one world, or how we have spoken of human freedom as being inviolable. Somehow, far too many of us have fallen into the error of thinking that the use of some such phrase has about it some magical quality which will actually bring about the one world of which we speak, or really develop that relationship among men of all races, creeds, and colors which will make for human freedom. We, then, are guilty of the same error in thinking, which in others we would call superstition. In our day, there are far too many men and women who are disillusioned because the one world of which they have spoken, The brotherhood of which they have dreamed has not yet become a reality. We must above all else remember that nothing of great importance to human life and welfare ever happens quickly. And it certainly never happens just because we adopt or use a formula. But study, understanding, and human sympathy, coupled with devotion, sincerity, and faith in human progress, are in the final analysis the factors which will help us to attain the goals toward which we aspire. The truly pious man is the man who recognizes himself and other human beings as God's instruments upon this earth. He will avoid the improper use of slogans, formulas, and incantations, and will instead use his God-given mind and the knowledge of God's nature, which is everywhere manifest, to help bring about the kind of world in which he believes.
Thank you, Rabbi Gordon. The fantasy, How They Knocked the Devil Out of Uncle Ezra, was written for The Eternal Light by Morton Wishengrad. The music was composed by Morris Pomorsky and conducted by Milton Caters. Cantor David Putterman sang the liturgical music. Featured as Uncle Ezra was Michael Artist, as Reb Isaac Aaron, Roger de Koven, and Alexander Scorbe, the narrator. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
The Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation, and it shall be a statute forever in your generation. The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our story today is the last in a series of original parables, fantasies, and folk tales by Morton Wishengrad. The play is entitled Jacob's Ladder, and features Juano Hernandez as Jacob, Bryna Rayburn as Bessie, and House Jameson as the narrator. If more people understood that a good many modern improvements have been installed in heaven, more people would seem to be more anxious to go there. What would you say if I told you that about 25 years ago, a man called Jacob Schneider was being considered for admission to heaven? What would you say if I told you that Jacob Schneider was a poor farmer who barely eked out a living on 1 cow and 5 hens, 3 of them in different layers? What would you say, finally, if I told you that this same Jacob Schneider lived on the outskirts of Louisville?
Aha, that surprised you, didn't it? Well, don't be so surprised. Even people living inside Louisville have a chance to go to heaven, although the odds are better if you live on the outskirts. In any case, my knowledge of the story commenced when the traffic department received a call.
Traffic department. Jacob who? Spell the name. Schneider. Schneider. I've got it. Right.
You sent for me?
I want a full report on an eminent candidate named Jacob Schneider, place outskirts of Louisville.
What's the medical prognosis?
I don't know. Turn on the cardioscope.
What are the directions?
United States of America.
Right.
State of Kentucky.
State of Kentucky.
Jefferson County. That's up towards the Indiana border.
Jefferson County. Right.
Careful now. South of Louisville. Between Louisville and Oakdale. A dirt road for about 3 miles. A barn, 1 cow, hen house, 5 layers, 3 of them very unsatisfactory. A farmhouse. A man stretched out on a sofa. He's reading.
Here it comes. Listen. I'd say it sounds like an Austin Flint murder.
Yeah, might be. My own feeling is that it's nothing more or less than a microstenosis.
Rather imminent, don't you think?
No question of it. Now, shut it off. I'll go to the files and bring back a complete report. I don't want a summary of Jacob Schneider. I want details. Well, all right, now, let's not lose any time.
That's when I came in. I was in charge of the files. In a way, it was an unusual case, so I think I'd better begin with the time Jacob Schneider came as an immigrant to America. It was during the administration of President McKinley. May he rest in peace. Jacob Schneider had come off the boat, a small man with bony wrists and a pale scholar's face. He carried a few old clothes, a few old books. For a while, he spent his time studying the books. Then he couldn't bear the hunger. He got a job.
Sorry, Jacob, that's the second garment you've spoiled. Get your wages from the bookkeeper.
He tried another job. This one lasted a week.
It's $1.50. Don't come back.
Even a scholar must live. So Jacob Schneider tried still another job.
You sweep the saloon twice a day. Then you empty the spittoons and sprinkle the sawdust, wipe the table. And don't let me catch you hanging around a free lunch counter.
He could bear that for only 2 days. His fourth job was driving a junk wagon for a junk dealer.
I told you, offer him 15 cents for it. I don't care what you thought it was worth. I said offer 15 cents. 15 cents, not 85 cents. Get down off the wagon. You're fired.
After that, he drifted. Sometimes he walked, sometimes he rode. The clothes he wore got shabbier. He put cardboard in the soles of his shoes. And he carried his books. He was always hungry. In a little synagogue in Louisville, he met Bessie's father. They talked for a while. Then Jacob Schneider nodded his head and agreed. Hunger makes a man do many things.
Jacob, this is my daughter, Bessie. Bessie, this is Jacob Schneider.
I hope you'll like me, Bessie.
Bessie, he's talking to you.
It's all right. She doesn't have to answer.
Sure. But she'll talk. Wait until after you're married.
Bessie, I'm not a young man. I'm a widower. I had a wife in Austria. She died. I think you ought to know.
Bessie, aren't you going to say anything?
It's too bad his wife died.
You don't have to talk like that the first time he comes to see you. This is your house, Bessie. You might say something to him. Bessie, say something to him.
I'm 35 years old. I'm homely.
Go ahead. Tell him the rest. Tell him you've got a tongue that can scrape the skin off a man's back.
I don't have to tell him. Are you going to marry me?
Yes, Bessie.
Because you're hungry? Because you can't find work? Because a farm goes with me?
Yes, Bessie. Because I'm hungry. Because the farm goes with you.
Anyhow, you're not a liar. Smile, Father. Looks like you've finally gotten rid of me. It's all in the wrist. Strong fingers and good wrist. Try it again, Jacob.
I'm tired, Bessie. I'll try to milk the cow tomorrow, some other time.
You'll try now.
I'm not used to the fields and the barn, Bessie. I want to rest.
You'll milk the cow first, Jacob.
We won't quarrel about it. I'll try it again.
The wrist, the wrist. These aren't the pages of the Talmud. More wrist, you fool.
Bessie, not knowing how to milk a cow, that isn't everything. That doesn't make me a fool.
No?
No, Bessie.
You married me, didn't you? You're a fool.
Bessie, where shall I put this wood?
In the shed where... No, don't put it in the shed. Take it back. It's no good. Now you can pick it up, Jacob.
Since we were married, you haven't said one civil word to me.
Since we were married, I haven't deserved a civil word. You're an incompetent fumbler. Pick up the wood.
Not until you tell me why.
I asked for kindling, not for logs.
I sawed and split kindling until the blisters burst. What more do you want?
Kindling. This is too big. It won't fit in the stove.
You're glad, aren't you? It pleases you, Bessie, when I make a mistake, doesn't it?
Take it out and bring back proper kindling.
No, I've had enough.
The kindling is needed for the stove.
I told you I've had enough.
All right, Jacob, I'll do it myself.
Bessie, I'm sick of you.
Good enough. A bargain can be made. A bargain can be unmade. You can lie down. I'll take care of the kindling.
Never mind, Bessie. Stay in the kitchen. I'll take care of the wood. A bargain is a bargain. Yes.
That's a nasty wound your husband's got.
Just finish the bandage, Doctor. That's all we want.
And that's still a nasty tongue you've got, Bessie.
Congratulations, Doctor. You're still observant.
Jacob, how'd you get the cut?
He was splitting kindling. He was tired. The axe split.
Most accidents happen when people are tired.
That's right. Jacob was tired when he met me.
There are some things you don't say in front of other people, Bessie.
The doctor isn't other people. The doctor is part of the family furniture.
Bessie, some things are only between a husband and his wife.
You're perfectly right. Doctor, turn your back so I can give Jacob the money to pay you.
Bessie, what did they do to you? What terrible thing did they do to you to make you hate yourself so much?
That's the way it was between them. It's all written down in the file. Even a scholar with bony wrists and a pale face, even a man like Jacob Schneider, can be stubborn. He remained with Bessie on the farm. He didn't leave. And he began to learn. He even began to learn how to milk a cow without being afraid of the cow.
The rhythm is all wrong. It's 1, 2, 1, 2.
I didn't know you were in the barn.
Don't stop. We need the milk for our customers.
You might say you're glad I came back and tried again.
What for?
I'm not a weakling. If I were a weakling, I wouldn't have come back.
If you were a weakling, I wouldn't have married you.
You had no choice, Bessie.
That's right, Jacob. But I still wouldn't have married you. Even women like me marry a man for something.
Finish the milking, Jacob. Then carry the pail to the milk shed. I'll show you how the separator works, and don't take too long.
Yes, Bessie.
It is recorded that Jacob smiled. He finished the milking and brought her the pail. He stood in the field under the sun, the scholar whose face was no longer so pale, and he cut down the hay with a scythe. And while he worked, he thought it through. He thought it all the way through. After supper, he said what was on his mind.
You hate me because you are beholden to me.
I'm beholden to no one. Everything I have has been bought and paid for.
That's why, Bessie.
I'm not a scholar. Talk simply. Say what you mean.
Suppose I were a rich man with many servants, and you came to my house. And suppose I prepared your bed with my own hands, because a servant would have done it for my pay. And I wanted to show that I did it for friendship.
I don't understand you.
The good things can't be paid for, Bessie. A hand clasp that's paid for isn't the clasp of a hand. Some things are sold, some things are given. It's the things that are given that you want. That's why you're so bitter.
Is that what you get out of your book?
It's one of the things.
That's why you're a fool.
You haven't denied what I said.
No, I haven't.
Whatever else you do to yourself, you don't lie to yourself.
What do you want to say?
I've said it, Bessie. No one's going to give a thing to you until you yourself start to give.
It's a complicated record. Every man's life is a complicated record. Learning is a cloak to hide ignorance. Laughter is a mask for tears. Hardness is the shield of the frustrated and those like Bessie who are too easily bruised by life. It takes a long time to understand this. It took a long time for Bessie. A cattle dealer drove a herd of cattle on the road past the farm.
Dealer. Oh, dealer.
Oh, good afternoon.
Those cattle, they look worn.
They should be. I've driven them since before daybreak.
They look thirsty. Wait here. I'll get some buckets out and I'll help you water them.
Well, there's a good deal of work.
Wait here. I'll fetch the buckets.
It's written down. While Bessie stood and watched, Jacob fetched the buckets and pumped the water. Bessie just stood and watched. Jacob watered the cattle. The old cows and the heifers and the calves drank their fill. When the cattle dealer brought a coin from his pocket...
I'm much obliged. Oh, this is for you, mister.
Oh, no thanks.
I won't pay more. That's the regular price.
I didn't do it for you or for your money. They were thirsty.
You talk peculiar.
They're creatures of God.
Huh? Anything you say.
Besides, it was water. Air and water. Those aren't things to pay for. Not yet.
Good afternoon, mister.
Good afternoon.
We're poor people. They offered you money.
It wasn't very much, Bessie.
What difference is that?
It was only 25 cents.
It was that much. You had no right to refuse it.
The labor was mine, Bessie. I did you no injury.
More of your books.
Yes, Bessie. And you're making another mistake. You're bitter because I gave to a stranger. That's a mistake, Bessie. Giving is not for one, nor for a few, nor a few more. Giving is for all.
Is that you, Jacob?
Yes, Mr. Green. Everything all right?
Fine. We'll take only 2 quarts from now on instead of the usual 3.
I'll tell Bessie. She keeps the accounts.
Tell her he must have gone away, or maybe he died or something.
Who, Mr. Green?
That's just it. I really don't know myself, but you tell Bessie.
Well, does she know the man you're talking about?
Don't even know if it was a man. But you just say Mr. Green says 2 quarts will be enough instead of 3 from now on. I see you've left 2 bottles today instead of the 3.
That's what you said, wasn't it?
Sure.
Mr. Green, I haven't been very observant. I've just realized that you've always taken 3 bottles of milk, but you never returned the 3 bottles. Only 2. We're always short of bottles.
Didn't Bessie tell you?
No.
Strange woman.
Mr. Green, I'm listening.
I thought you knew. Some time back, 3 or 4 months, Bessie and me, we had us a fight. I ordered 2 quarts of milk. I found only 1 quart each time. She said she left 2, and she wanted me to pay for 2.
That was about the time I was married?
I guess so. Then I found out someone was stealing a quart of milk each time. I was going to wait for him with my shotgun. She wouldn't let me.
Bessie?
Sure. She said people don't steal milk unless they're desperate. That's why she's been leaving an extra quart all this time. 2 quarts for me, 1 quart for whoever it is who needs it.
She never said a word.
Strange woman. Never could figure Bessie out.
No. And I thought, I've been preaching to her. Mr. Green, I'm a fool. Here's Mr. Green's money.
Did you count it? People don't mean to cheat you of a penny, but sometimes mistakes happen.
I didn't count it, Bessie.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10. A nickel makes 15, 17, 19, 21.
Don't count the money, Bessie.
Why not? It's what we live on.
No, it's not what we live on. I've been speaking to Mr. Green.
You stand and talk while the milk sours in the sun.
Nothing soured. I just talked to Mr. Green.
Fine. 2 men talking in the noonday while the women work.
Don't be embarrassed. Whoever it was, Bessie, you didn't shame him by giving him publicly. It was very considerate. Happy is the one who considereth the poor. It doesn't say give, it says consider.
I can't abide men who stand around talking when there's livestock to be fed and a barn to be cleaned and kindling to be cut.
Bessie, you know something?
Oh, stop behaving like a child. If you have a question to ask, ask it.
I was thinking to myself, if you didn't pull your hair straight back, if you parted it on the side, sure, I think you'd look pretty.
Jacob,
You don't have to say anything. I know.
That was all. But that was the true beginning of the marriage of Jacob and Bessie Schneider. The other things are all set down here in detail. The rest, well, when people are happy together, there's not much to talk about. They never had children. The medical report says they married too late for it. And now the medical report says that Jacob Schneider is an eminent candidate for heaven. One thing about the cardioscope, it never exaggerates.
It could be an Austin Flint murmur.
No, it's out of the question. It's a mitral stenosis. We'd better determine from the record whether or not he comes to heaven or goes to hell.
From the record, I'd say there's no doubt about Bessie. It's heaven for her, no 2 opinions about her. But, there are some things about Jacob that disturb me.
Such as?
He was trained to goodness and to charity. It was the Torah and the Talmud that he studied. It was what his father taught him. She was good out of her own goodness. The greater virtue is hers.
I don't know. We can't penalize learning and study. I think I'll go down and talk to Jacob Schneider myself.
Is that you, Bessie?
No, Bessie's in the kitchen.
Well, who is it?
A friend. Your doctor asked me to step in as a consultant.
It's that bad?
You can't complain.
Well, I'm not complaining. I just want to know.
Every man has his time, Jacob. This is your time.
All right. Where am I going?
There's heaven, and there's hell.
What do the souls do in heaven?
They draw near to the divine presence, and they study good works.
And in hell?
There the wicked make retribution for their sins.
Who pities them in hell?
No one, Jacob. Hell is a place where there is no pity. That's why it's hell. Well, where do you wish to go?
I wish to go to hell.
Jacob Schneider, why?
Because I will pity them. Even in hell, there should be at least one being to pity the souls in torment.
Jacob Schneider, come with me.
It was the only answer, and the soul of Jacob Schneider was brought to heaven. If there is pity now in hell, it is because of him and because of his love for Bessie and her redemption from bitterness. I know what this story proves. It means that even if you live in Louisville, you have as good a chance of going to heaven as a man who lives in Des Moines, or Chicago, or Albany, or any other city. Of course, it's only a prejudice on my part, but sometimes I wonder if the odds aren't higher if you live in the suburbs.
If you would like a free copy of the script you have just heard, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York, 27, New York. And now we present a talk by Rabbi Julius J. Nodell of the Temple, Cleveland, Ohio. Speaking from Cleveland, Rabbi Nodell.
It was only yesterday that the scriptural lesson read according to tradition in every Jewish house of worship began with chapter 28 in the book of Genesis, verse 10, which tells of Jacob's dream. Jacob had been forced to flee from the house of his father Isaac because Esau, his twin brother, had threatened to kill him. There was Jacob in the desert, alone at night, surrounded by peril, facing an unknown future. The young lad was sorely troubled. What did he do? He took a stone and placed it under his head for a pillow. And that night, with a hard stone for a resting place, a wonderful vision came to him of a ladder that reached to the throne of God, and angels walking to and fro between heaven and earth upon it. A stone, mind you, a hard, rough stone was Jacob's pillow, yet it nurtured one of the grandest dreams ever beheld by man, a ladder to God. Jacob, in other words, converted his fear and sorrow into a thing of supernal beauty. He beheld God in his tears. This is not merely a biblical story written 2,500 years ago on a parchment, for upon the scroll of history, the experiences of the people of Israel have taught the same lesson, that men can transmute suffering into grace and character. Throughout the ages, Israel has been forced to flee the hate of their brethren. Israel has lived through many painful nights, and yet it has always managed to create out of the hard stone of its suffering a Beth-El, a house of God, wherever its wandering feet have rested. All men today, like Jacob of ancient days, have borne heavy burdens during the past critical years, and facing the future, are burdened with mental unrest and awesome challenges. Shall we stalk and fret and complain, or shall we, too, take the hard stone of our problems and build upon it a ladder to God? Evil is not something to accept, but something to work out. Through adversity, man is not trapped, he is tested. And in the end, there is hope. It is faith versus fate. It is the assertion that man is captain of his ship and master of his fate. This is the Jewish idea. It is what we do with the mechanics of life that render it meaning. We add love to a house, and it becomes a home. We add civic righteousness to a city, and it becomes a community. We add truth to a pile of bricks and stone, and it becomes a place of worship. Above all, we add spirit, soul, imagination to our tears, and they become a thing of loveliness and of beauty. A Jacob's ladder linking us with God, with peace. Jacob in ancient times heard the promise, "Fear not, the Lord is with thee." This blessing is for all men today, but only for those who listen.
Thank you, Rabbi Nodell. The fantasy Jacob's Ladder was written for the Eternal Light by Morton Wishengrad. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Catiff. Cantor David Putterman sang the liturgical music. Featured as Jacob was Juano Hernandez, Bryna Rayburn as Bessie, and House Jameson as the narrator. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Patt. This program is a presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations, and comes to you each week at the same time under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. If you would like a free copy of today's script, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York, 27, New York. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.